was announced last year.
No, it wasn't. It's hard to do communication. Anyway, you will go get your bell. We have 4 candidates this year for board, and we need to elect 3. So we would like you to circle up to 3 of the names, and then we would like you to turn your ballot in to one of the officials out there, and we will count it hopefully before the end of this meeting, and we'll be able to come back and give you the final result on the who is elected to the Board of Trustees. And we would like you to bring your NAR card out there so we can verify your membership. And if you don't have your NAR card, we can look you up in the database just to make sure that we have you. So we can check your number and check you off. Okay. I think I want to look you up if you don't have your NAR card, just to make sure. Okay, that's all I have to say. So anytime, I wouldn't know if you go at once, but whenever you're ready, just come out there.
Big mad rush. We'll start in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes!
Well, while they're doing that, I had a flexi returned to me from Flying I-Beam Kids. Are either of the Flying I-Beam kids here? You get it to them? Okay.
All right.
Hey. I need to make a rig so I can have one tripod the whole everything.
I will try to sing on this side so I don't take that out.
I need to get outside meeting.
It's pretty far.
Yeah, they changed this. I was wanting to get it.
Sweet.
I want to sit still if I don't have to.
I know. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks again for all the work you did on the logo.
Well done. I did. Not the reason about me standing in front of the room.
It's really good to have you. Yeah. You know really well. Thanks a lot.
So you have a town hall meeting and then after all business meeting in order. Do you like to use any official business
So I called you.
Keep the run going. I'm working on it.
You flown a few?
What's discussed? Well, that's
Did it work?
Prepare to buy.
Well, you got a little bit of special dispensation. I'm just saying, it's just your forewarning. It's just the bow shot. Okay, it was a bow shot. I still want to see the, I was a manufacturer. I'm back! Hello! I want to see Joe Public fly.
I think it'll fly with V6 too. Thank you. I think it'll fly fine with V6 too. I think it will. That it would launch, deploy before it hits the ground? Yes.
Then it'll be a safe flight.
How fast is it going to go? 25 miles an hour?
It won't have enough time to
Puerto
recover.
Rico is going to be next.
I don't know. I was thinking 2 second delay should be enough.
Yeah, but
If it only makes 50 feet, then it might not.
it's not going to make 50 feet.
It is a pound with 3 ounces.
It's not going to make it.
I think if you made it with a 18 millimeter mount, if you don't have a 24-inch adapter, I think it would be fine.
Not going to make this.
Look what Estes flies on C63s.
They don't fly Big Daddies on C63.
But they fly Alien Probe on C63s, they fly Tomcats on C63s,
They don't fly Big Daddies on C63.
I do.
Okay. So C6, so a D6 has half the total impulse.
Same thrust level.
This doesn't matter. That's half the impulse.
The point is, it has to be identical.
The burn is only half as
I
long.
know, but it would be identical with these things, so no burnout.
But the bottom point is, a C6 will have to get as long. B6 will not work. Right. It might, it's not a might, it won't work. Try it one day, it will not work.
I'm almost certain C63 will work. It'll be sketchy. B62. The question is, the 1 second shorter delay make up for all the
You did.
I left the field at 4 o'clock and still wasn't on the computer. Normally he'd been letting those in. Oh no, good scriptures. I could see the back last year.
So you're all right. And you are still going on. Yeah. So you'd be proposing bodies.
I get a little easier. I do my hurdle tonight. We're gonna get my review and I'm still out 4 more days.
Firefly.
You'll be numb by Wednesday.
I'm already.
Won't feel Thursday, Friday.
The stress is going to be together.
It's a job.
I've been a long time at end user. Chris, can you get a picture of those goodies over there?
What are they for? The auction?
No, they're future NAR fundraising.
I was just like going, is this pretty on? I'll tell you, before you're in the field, you can I'll buy it. But until that time, it's big. That would explain it. But other than that, pictures like the sun, going forward with some linking light like this too.
On the website, I was taking a check back. I've been hearing about it about 3 years. Went back on the site.
Average truck.
Don't have enough input. You don't
That's the large one. She's not real basic for us to be there for all day.
Yeah, these up for some of the youth already were presented as PowerPoint slides.
D helicopter, that was one. And D helicopter for the Kings. I think the only best I'm going to watch other than sports
All right, let's get started, please. Everybody in here that wants to vote, have you gone out? I'll take the resounding silence as all right. So we're going to start the town hall meeting while they're tallying the votes and completing that process. Then when we're done with the town hall meeting, we'll bring Joyce and the vote talliers back in. We'll do the quick NAR business meeting and wrap this up, and then post this meeting, Ed will present another update and tell people about the contest portion of things. So, if you don't know who I am, it's written on my shirt. I'm John Hockheimer, the president of the NAR, and I'm going to talk to you tonight about the state of the NAR. Other trustees who, most are present, you all know Joyce, you spoke with her out there. Ryan Coleman, our vice president, has been unable to make the meeting today. Ryan, Joyce, Tom Ha, our treasurer, sitting back there with his cool Florida shorts on, so he's ready. What else we got here? Ed LeBroy is cooking around here. Carol is up helping unwrap some. Vince Hughley, I saw Vince. Vince is here. John Lindahl, and Mark is at the door. So those are your trustees as the current term. All right, and I think Ted or Tripp or predates me, but we've been doing these safety minutes at the beginning of these meetings, and I think it's something that we really should continue. And instead of highlighting just one thing, I tried to pull a couple things together here, and positioning people with respect to where our rockets are launching and landing is extremely important. And I noticed Saturday we had to work on positioning. One piece of that work on positioning is we actually taped off an area that now there's nobody parking, which gives us a huge safe landing zone if the wind's blowing away from the big icky. So it's just doing things like this and it's just observing as we set up, where are the crowds, where are the vehicles, where are people who don't know what's going on and may not be anticipating this big honking rocket coming down safely under parachute, hopefully on top of them. So we can reduce a lot of risk just by observing where things would go on the field. Angling rails away from the crowd is another thing. Create and force a splash zone that's away from somebody that's not going to be aware. Something that we've been actually working with Tripoli on, they feel that this is something that's extremely important, that they've had problems with their membership, but keeping spectators and non-essential personnel out of the launch area. When we're setting up that big level 3 rocket that's got complex electronics, That's not the place for the photo op with the 2-year-old. Okay? Take it when it's inert and you've put it and assembled it in the parking area, but out on the launch field, the people that are out at the, especially the high power range, need to be all situationally aware of what's going on. Okay, it's not the family gathering photo op place. And finally, it's fire season, and we've been reminded, I think, a couple times over the past few days, and kudos to everybody here, everything's been handled wonderfully, right? You have tons of water out there, people are prepared and ready, something bad happens, there's an immediate response, and a small area is burned, nothing significant happened, okay? So that's what preparedness, and that's what we hope keeps us safe. So prevent fires if at all possible, and just plan for suppression. All right. So sort of looking back over the past year, I guess I've had the great fortune of inheriting a really strong National Association of Rocketry. Right? It's the membership has been in excess of 6,000 since I became president. Actually, well in excess of 6,000, and currently we're at a little bit over 6,600 members. Now, it fluctuates, and if anybody's really interested, and I'm sure Ted and Tripp and others have shown in past, if you look at week to week, right now our membership is at the all-time low for the month of, that will be for the month of August. We've just sort of purged the list of everybody with an expiring membership, and it'll just gradually grow up to the end of the month. The end of August, we'll do another purge of people whose membership has expired. It drops back down and works its way up. But if you look at the trend over time, we're actually gaining over time. So we've got 6,600 members strong, and that's great. And we can do a lot because we have a strong membership base now. We have 174 sections right now, one more than the town hall meeting that I did in at Narcon. And between Narcon and now, we renewed sections, so there were a number of sections that dropped out or probably weren't active at the time that I thought we had 173 sections, but currently we have 174 sections, 10 new ones, and 2 sections that restarted themselves from a dormant period of dormancy. So our sections are strong. We'd like to see it get stronger, but we're maintaining access to groups of people to launch rockets all across the United States. And he's not here, but kudos to Chuck Neff, who does a ton of work associated with the sections. Randy, by the way, in the section activities, Randy Gilbert also contributed, but Chuck down there in the trenches, we get somebody that requests some information about sections, Chuck's on them. He's contacting them, he's sending them information, he's getting their section stuff posted up on the web, he's getting them located on the map and the locator. He's just working constantly with them to help them grow their sections. Our financial position is extremely healthy. If I can do the mental and visual math that I, in looking at our budget year over year, at this point in time, compared to this point in time last year, we're $75,000 ahead of where we were. And our we're growing our membership, so the bulk of our income comes from our membership dues. So that steady increase, along with a lot of spending that we've been trying to do to increase member services, we're still gaining ground in terms of our financial health. So that's a really good, strong position. Tom, our magazine, Todd, our magazine continues to be the best ever. How many people have seen the most recent issue? It's phenomenal stuff in there. I can't help it. I'll tell you a little story. So my 3-year-old grandson is a member of the NARD. It was somewhat by accident. Eventually I was going to join him up as a member, but we had to test something out on the web page, and I had to do something to join a new member. And I was just going to run my credit card through. It doesn't help me. I'm a life member, so I never get those renewals and do anything. So I thought, wait a minute, I'll just sign Logan up. So put all Logan's information in, and I didn't totally blindside my daughter, so I called her up and said, hey, you know, Logan's going to start getting stuff now from the National Association of Rocketry. He's going to be a member and things. And, you know, his card shows up, the member guidebook shows up, the magazine shows up, and he's thrilled, and FaceTime's wonderful, and he calls me up and shows me all this stuff, and he's so proud that he has a member card. And then since then, he's taken to, whenever he gets the version of the magazine, he plops down on the kitchen table at breakfast time and eats his cereal and reads through the magazine. And so I get pictures of Logan reading the magazine. So, guys, you got a captive audience in my grandson, and you know, and a captive audience and a bunch of others here. But anyways, and finally, our high power certification rate is achieved record levels. We continue to grow with high power flyers. Some more great years. Our liability insurance remains at $5 million. And part, I would say, we're able to achieve that because the student launch program contributes a significant amount. We jumped it from $2 million to $5 million at the request of them for the contract that we have with NASA. So they pitch in a little bit. But I would say also the fact that we've been safe over the past several years. Our premiums have gone up, but they've not gone up because we've had a poor safety record. So, good insurance program. We continue to make improvements to the website, and we got some things underway that we're going to chip away at that even more and freshen it up more and put some additional content on. We're going to give away $35,000 in grants and scholarships this year, so educationally we're supporting things. We continue to have a robust section grants program. You know, how many people here are in, you know, you guys are all in sections, right? Has your section applied for and gotten a section grant this year?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I write a lot of checks, but I don't write 174 of them. Let's see, where else? And we're consistently delivering on our partnerships with key educational groups. AIA with TARP, NASA with the Student Launch Program. We're participating in other STEM programs, other educational programs as well. Joyce, Vince, some others are constantly improving the NAR education program and our website and the outreach that we do for education. So we're doing an awesome job at these. All right, so let's break it down a little bit more. So how are we doing? So our membership is growing. I told you about that. We didn't have time to split this graph up, and I'm slightly colorblind, so this is either orange or pink, but this top line, and when my wife's really mad at me, she doesn't tell me what color I have on. But the top line is our membership growth. This was our peak month in October of 2016. I'm hoping to greatly exceed that this October. But here we are about between $6,600 and $6,700, or 100 members. You know, steady, constant growth of membership. If we break it down, roughly 5,000 senior members, 8,600 leader members, almost 600 junior members, 35 or so life members. And the one thing that our management system allows me to pull lots of data, and I've been playing around with it more and more, and I can actually have it tell me week to week over the course of a year, whatever time period you want, you know, what the membership levels are and how many new members we get, how many members leave the organization. And I've looked at it over the past 18 months to 2 years, and we're growing at about 25 members per month. All right, so at the end of a month, we'll lose a couple hundred to, depending on the month, several hundred members will drop off because they need to renew. The majority of them renew, but we're actually exceeding that in the balance of things. We're growing at about 25 members a month. Pretty good. Highest level of this year so far has been 6685. Okay, so, and that was, I think, in April. All right, if we look at our finances, we're continuing healthy finances. At this membership level, we're bringing in roughly $480,000 to $500,000 in revenue, and then again, our membership is the biggest contributor to that. Our annual budget is about $350,000. Right? We're committed to, and we remain committed to providing services for members. We spent a lot of time at the board meeting trying to figure out what can we do differently to enhance the membership experience. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of them, but and we're also trying new things. We're trying to get rid of things that haven't worked. So we're constantly as a board trying to figure out how can we keep on doing things better. So I'll put this so low, but the bottom line, the blue, I know what that color is our funds account, and that fluctuates across the year as well. These big dips tend to be when we write that $70,000 plus check to the insurance company that occurs every March, April timeframe. Okay? But year over year we're maintaining. Alright, where does our money go? This used to be a pie chart. I had the hardest time trying to deal with it, and I didn't think it was real. And I like numbers better. I'll put numbers in a pie chart maybe next time. But if we break down our income, dues is about 72%. STEM, the student launch NASA contract that we have actually constitutes about 13% of our budget right now. The magazine with ad sales is about 7%, just pure donations. And we actually get a lot of people that sort of round up their membership numbers and donate some money that way. NARTS is about 2%, and then just miscellaneous stuff that didn't fit any of those categories is about 2%. And unless my calculator was wrong this morning, that should add up to 100. I had to fix that. So, and where do our expenses go? The magazine is the most expensive thing that we have, about 35%. Insurance, 14%. The student launch program actually is a net. Whatever we take in from the student launch, we actually disperse back out with that contract. That's 14% of our expenses. Headquarter services, Marie, that's 12%. Our national events program like this is 11% of our expenses. Educational grants at $35,000 plus some other things we do in education is about 6%. Miscellaneous 4%. Member services. That in particular, I think, is the membership, the fulfillment that we do with your card. So the company that we pay to send out the cards and do all that is a big chunk of that member services. Okay, we're also very diverse, and mostly diversity in age at this point, but our median age is still around 51, and mean age is about 45. I think I may have said this earlier at NARCON, but I used to be sort of proud, and then the older I got, then the more scared I got about it. But I used to be the median age. Every year when the median age changed, as I got 1 year older, the median age changed older. Well, that's dropped now 9 years. So, so we're getting younger, which is good. And it's a very much of a bimodal distribution. That TARC contribution in terms of our membership is very significant at that 16 to 21 year age group. High power flyers, it continues to grow. We have roughly 3,500 of our members are high power certified. That's a little bit over 52% of our membership. 158 of those are junior members. Year over year, we lost 50 in the junior membership, but the best I can tell is they graduated out of the junior membership into regular senior level 1, which means we're not replacing them on the low end. So that may be something we want to look at. Level 1, about 1,500. Level 2, about 1,300. And about 500 level 3. Those, all three categories have grown over the past year. We have about 450 teachers or so by my count. And people who self-identify themselves as being a part of a section is about 3,700 members. I think that's low in our database. I think there's a lot of people, I think like in Novar, that we probably have members of Novar who don't identify themselves in our database as being affiliated with the section, so we're just not capturing all the section members. So we'll keep trying and keep trying to capture as many, but also keep encouraging people. So what are our priorities? First and foremost, safety. Safety is what keeps us being able to do a lot of what we want to do in terms of the sport. We want to continue to support all forms of commercial sport rocketry, and by that I mean using commercially available motors. We want to continue to support education outreach. We are a 501c3 organization founded to do educational advancement, and we want to continue with that mission. Teacher certification stuff, developing educational materials, the grants, the scholarships, whatever we can do in terms of education and outreach. I mean, TARC is 15 years old and remains going strong. We had, what, more teams this year, or was this the second highest year since?
It's the highest since the first year.
Yeah. So TARC, and I joked with Tripp at TARC this year that hopefully 15 years from now, him and I will still be up on the stage at the TARC finals. So,
With crutches.
yeah. Get out of my way, Tripp. No. So some more priorities. I want to continue to strive to grow our membership. And my goal over the next year, and actually the next 6 months, is I want to hit 7,000. Can we hit that 7,000 mark, and then we'll figure out a new goal. We want to offer members full transparency in what we do and the opportunity to participate. This is one of those forums. Board meetings are open except for the executive session of the board, and I hope that we're responding to and to questions and providing feedback. Some may not feel that we're always that way, but let us know, and we'll continue to try to improve. And we want to continue to provide support to our local sections in the forms of grants, and if there's other things that sections need that we can provide, that we want to try to do it. Okay, so the board met yesterday, and we had a busy day and kept people corralled in the room for as long as possible. And I think we had a very fruitful meeting. We got a lot accomplished. And the things that we accomplished, sort of the highlights of that include we accepted and approved the budget for 2017, a little bit late, but we got it. We're right on task with our budget in terms of spending. Everything is going fine with that. We talked about and we decided to establish a finance committee that reports to the board. And the finance committee is going to provide oversight and strategic planning, right? And hopefully one of the areas that we can, the finance committee can help us with is help us in the budget forecast and the budgeting process. What are we doing now? Do we want to start looking more into the future? How do we get to the future based on our current financial situation? What do we need to change? Like I said, we're bringing in close to $500,000 a year in monies now. We may, I think, want to consider being audited and going through a process like that to show even more accountability to ourselves and to people that are contributing to us. So this finance committee hopefully will help us along that pathway. We're going to actually hire an accounting firm, and this only costs us about $10,000 a year to handle stuff like bookkeeping and IRS forms. As we've grown, the number of little bills and little things and keeping our checking accounts and everything all straight is becoming more and more of a burden to the treasurer. He's spending all this time dealing with the bookkeeping aspects of things, and we're not spending time doing the long-range budgeting and the thing that we really need the treasurer to do in terms of helping with the finances for the organization. So it turns out that the size of our organization and the amount of work that we do is actually not that difficult for a bookkeeping firm. And so we found some firms that can do this. We're going to work with them. They can handle that day-to-day kind of stuff pretty easily, free up time and the treasurer from doing that. And as importantly, keep us really on the cutting edge of keeping our IRS forms just going smoothly. We're at the level now that we have to submit annually a Form 990 to the IRS, which discloses all the financial doings of a nonprofit like ours. And it's a lot of work. I mean, Tom, what do you spend? 40, 50, 60 hours a year putting this Form 990 together. An accounting firm, they do these things all the time. It's like boom, boom, boom. If they're doing our books, they can just wrap that into the Form 990 and get it off. And I'll tell you, the one accountant that's a really good friend of mine who does a lot of nonprofit work told me that's not something you want to mess with. Okay? If we lose our if we screw up with the 990 and lose our 501c3 status, it takes a long time to get back up to it. So we think that this is a very wise allocation of our finances. We're also adding some additional travel reimbursement for the board members and the president. And maybe it may be viewed as self-serving, but our expenses as board members continue to increase, and we just feel that if you have to use a lot of your personal finances to be a board member, that may be a chilling effect on keeping board members. We have enough money to add some additional money to send our board members to our board meetings, and so they're not out of pocket for the entire expense. So that's what we did. We changed the allocation from $500 to $1,000 per board member. And then the other disbursement that we agreed to was we're going to do a subscription for professional photo storage. We're taking lots and lots more pictures. And I may have to, could you do me a favor, Mark, and give me a glass of water? Yeah, one of the marks. We're taking lots of photographs, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to share them among the people that need to share them directly. So this photo storage allows us to do that a lot easier and a lot more efficiently. Some other stuff we did. I'll talk about this in a second, but we also voted to support the preservation of historic artifacts. Right now, that entails supporting the preservation of the Stein collection. Hold that thought. I'm pretty sure I have another slide. If not, I'll do it from memory. But that involved some actions that we want to work with the Museum of Life. Thank you very much, Mark. In terms of preserving that wealth of history for our organization and for our hobby. We're going to support travel for the NAR historian to travel to NAR headquarters. There's some information that Jennifer needs from Marie, and at the same time, Marie's not been updated in terms of technology probably for 3 or 4 years now, and Marie tends to use things until they fall apart, and I'm sure there's a lot of duct tape and stuff holding that 1980s vintage computer together in her little cubby downstairs. But so we're going to just take a look and see what she needs, and if she needs any refresh in some of her technology, we'll take care of that too as well. Yes?
Just final reminder, if there are any eligible voters who have not voted yet, you have 5 minutes. I don't think that's anybody in the room, but I want to afford everybody every possible opportunity. Early and often. We're tracking that.
All right, so we also reviewed the RC Rocket Glider Safety Code. We took a look at it as part of several safety things that we've been looking at as a board and as our safety committee with Steve Loveliner. Steve took a look at the current safety code, and we're thinking we may not want to call it a safety code, but a safety best practices. You know, there could be a lot of hand waving, but we feel as a board that we want to signal to people if they want to fly RC rocket gliders that here's some best practices that you could use that will lead towards you having a safe operation. And I think for the most part they're not largely different, and they're not going to be largely different in the recommendations that your committee comes up with that they are now. Steve also did some work on some high power contest guidelines that I thought were pretty interesting, and he did some of those last year in St. Louis, and I think some of them are going on this year. I think there's a lot of things that we could do in high power flying to do just some fun and unique contests, so Steve's going to be working on that. We sent those both to committees to work on. And it comes up every now and then. I've been on the board 8 or 9 years, I don't know, a while now. But every once in a while somebody pops up that, should we develop a safety code for water rockets? And I think the last time it was brought to the board, we considered it and thought, there's some good points that we could do with that, and then there's some potential disadvantages. In the end, the board still feels that, we're not going to support a safety code for water rockets. That's just outside of the scope of what we're doing, right? It would be great that somebody does it, but it's, we've got enough things to deal with right now, and that's just a little bit out of the scope, and we're not sure we want to take on the burden associated with that. Okay, so what are some of the things that we've been doing as well? So we renewed our insurance. I paid $77,000 to the insurance company for a great insurance policy. We've done section grants. There's still funding available. I think I'll show you later, but we've written a considerable amount of checks for section grants, but there's a bunch of money left in that pot. We've increased our social media presence on Facebook and Twitter. Carol Markle, Mark Wise, and our other members are actively on Facebook trying to keep our presence up in there. We continue to grow our Facebook presence in social media, and Carol's coming with some additional things that we can do to try to enhance our presence in the social media realm, which we think will continue to help us grow.
John, we're also on Instagram, and YouTube is up and running.
Okay. I did this at like 6 o'clock this morning, so I think I may. Yeah. So we are also on Instagram. Competition, we've completed the sporting code that includes skills, craftsmanship, and R&D rules. I'll be the first to admit, it's still not wholly popular among all our membership. These guys have done an awesome job in my view. They spent a lot of hours and a lot of time pulling together a revision of the safety code. And following this meeting, they're going to, Ed's going to present another update for the group and those who are interested in reviewing it. We also signed an MOU with the Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Say that 5 times fast. And it's similar to, I think we have one with the Civil Air Patrol, we have one with 4-H. And we just view this as a way to potentially interface with other youth groups that have rocketry programs as part of their overall mission, and it just may be another source of some new membership, and it's another way for us to get the educational programs out that we're trying to promote. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Historic Preservation Fund. All right. At the last board meeting, we created a historic preservation fund within the NAR, and essentially that created, I like to think of things in buckets. We have this bucket to do this thing, but it allows us to have a mechanism that we can do fundraising to help preserve historic artifacts and things that we think are historically important to our hobby and to the NAR. Right? So, analogous to the Cannon Fund. So now we have a place within our financial system that we could put money that could be earmarked to go to historic preservation. So that's what that fund was. As part of that, Pat Fitzpatrick has been very active. Pat, I want to be a pilot. Do you guys have a lot of free time? Either he has a lot of free time or he's just like never sleeps. But I get all these emails and all these ideas from Pat, and okay, Pat, and work with them closely. Pat's come up with a lot of ideas, and Pat's really spearheading a way to help populate this preservation fund. And he's looking at talking to some members to donate to the preservation. He's looking at talking to some corporate sponsorship and all sorts of levels in between, right? And then they're looking for different ideas to sort of show your participation and show that we appreciate that people are contributing to this fund. So things like pins and the artwork that's on display up here, and feel free to come up and take a look at it after the meeting. But these are examples of some artwork that could be used as a thank you to some large donors in terms of contributing to the fund. And I continue to look at these and just sort of hope that in Pat's packing, he's distracted a little bit. One of them just sort of falls into the bag.
My God.
Yep, and we'll pass it around. But if people are interested in more information about these, and feel free to come up and look at it. But I'll pass the sign-up sheet around, and let us know that you're interested, and Pat will be sending you some information and bending your ear a little bit. So one of the things that's come up in terms of this preservation, you all know that we're affiliated and affiliated. We've established a partnership and a working relationship with the Museum of Flight in Seattle. And as a result of that, there's a display at the Museum of Flight in Seattle of rocketry, historical artifacts. So, Chip, is one of your models in there? Do you have anything on the display?
Not me. The winning, the rockets that won each of the last 2 years at TARC are always on display there, for one thing.
Wasn't Melissa sent one of her gliders?
Yeah, several of the FAI U.S. team rockets that have won gold medals are on display there too.
Yeah. So, it's really, the whole museum is awesome, in particular the rocketry display. But in addition to those kind of displays, the Stein collection is largely now located at the Museum of Flight. All right, and I didn't have time, and I don't want to take all your time, but Pat showed us some, there's pallets of shrink-wrapped stuff waiting to be archived and gone through, and I don't know what, I'm not a... Curated. There's a word for it. At the Museum of Flight with the Stein collection, and one of the things the Museum of Flight and we think shouldn't happen is that this thing does need to be curated. Now, what does that mean? So they're going to go through and index it all and see what do we really have. And right now they just have pallets of boxes, and they've gone through some of it. And we got this. I wasn't around for Harry Stein, so I don't know any of significant. But in some of the pictures I've seen, there's some really cool models that I'm sure were part of Harry's company and some of the stuff he flew, but there's just lots and lots of paper and plans and things, and we need to go through it. And we can make it available, and the museum can make it available for people electronically online to see what's there, and if there's a plan for, I don't know, what's
Veronique.
A what?
Veronique.
You can go online and search it and get an electronic version of that thing. So that's sort of what the curation process is supposed to do. So what's it going to take to do that? They're estimating right now about $100,000. So, and what the Museum of Flight is looking for is they'll match from donations on their side, $50,000 match from the NAR. To start that process, we set aside, but we didn't give them money yet. We set aside $25,000 in the beginning of the process to support that effort. So we've created in our banking account now a temporarily restricted fund. See, Tom's teaching me, it took me a while. We've created that fund. The money's still in our bank account, but we just earmarked it now as funds that the board thinks we could set aside to support this effort. Right? The thing's not going to happen until all the money's available. So we're fundraising, we're looking to you for support, we're looking to lots of others for support. But we think that this is something that's very, very worthwhile. The history of model rocketry is largely sitting at the Museum of Flight, ready to be processed. Okay, so that's what, and the bottom line on this, we want feedback from the membership. Right? Send me a note, talk among yourselves. I don't think I have time to talk an hour to each one of the people in the room. I may, I don't sleep as much as most. But I'm here all week. I'm open to ideas and want to hear from you. And we're going to try to survey membership and get this out there. But we want to know what you all think about this as well. Okay? Did I hit it?
It can benefit everybody.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I don't know. All right. So what's still happening in the NAR? Well, we're still paying up to $350 for articles, and Tom assures me that all you budding young writers and rocketry enthusiasts and people who have very cool stuff to share need to send him articles, and we'll work with you to get them ready and get them in the magazine. We're recognizing high power skills with the Rocket Science Achievement Award still. We still have a recruitment bonus that's next on my list to get that big stack of $5 bills and send out. We're still looking at motors and what we do with motors. We have the expired motor testing program that still exists, and I think recently somebody asked to do that, and we worked out the logistics for them. And something in like Tennessee or South Carolina or something.
I get typically about 1 or 2 requests a month.
Yeah, so people are still participating in that, and motorcato.org is still up and available when we have significant problems, CATOs with motors. And our Facebook page, I looked it up this morning, it may have changed, but we have 5,585 members on our Facebook page as of sometime this morning. All right, Contest Rocketry, the expanding competition subcommittee that Ed LaCroix has been heading himself. Scott Alexander, Glenn Fevier, Jim Filler, Chad Ring. Ed, Scott, and Chad are all somewhere here. 2 out of the 3. I don't see Chad in physically.
He'll be here.
But a lot of this group is here, and they've spent many hours working on this, and this has been a really hard-working group. So I want to continue to commend them in what they've been doing with their subcommittee. Bob Alway, I want to also commend you. Kudos to you in embracing the concept of a rocketry festival. All right, I love it. I got the materials, and I'm looking through all the information, and we have what was it, a rocketry carnival? Yeah.
Carnival lunch.
Carnival lunch. It was. I'm sorry I was at the board meeting and I had to fly by proxy, but I really do appreciate, and the young lady at the place that we went to dinner last night really appreciated the prize I got from that, and she was actually pleasantly delighted to get the rocket, thought it was really cool. So, you had stuff like that. I'm trying to think. Your imagination celebration, I heard that's going on. You had a night launch. My gosh, I'm drawing a blank, but there's so many things that you guys are trying to put out there for the membership. And one thing I would ask after you sleep for a week or 2 at the end of this, don't sleep too long, but get together and put down some of those ideas and what went right and what went wrong with them and send it to us. All right? We'll try to grow that information and send it to some other people. I think this, we just got to keep generating the ideas. All right, I have no idea where I'm at, and well, that's okay. I'll have to do. I can't do my mental math. It's been a long day. Okay, we have no insurance claims in 2016, and as of today, 2017, we've had no claims. We've had some incidents, and we've had some things that people have sent us the start of claims, and but nothing has occurred that's caused us to have either the NAR to pay out any form of a deductible, or we have to tap into the insurance company. All right, that's great. But there's still rockets at times that are flown shouldn't be flown. A near miss is not a good thing. And I want to continue to emphasize to people that our insurance rate, and $77,000 a year is a lot of money, but it could and can be a lot worse and a lot higher which will affect the financial health of this organization if we have a significant major impact that we have to pay out an insurance claim. All right? And minor accidents and minor incidents happening all the time. And
Who's the lead negotiator for that?
who's our insurance agent?
Yeah, next time you get me involved if you can, next time you do that, I might be able to help.
Okay. Okay. Some other concerns, other things that are on the top of our agenda. We want to continue to attract and retain new members. You know, we're growing and we continue to grow. We want to keep that trend moving upwards. Launch sites. We always need new launch sites. I wish I had the magic bullet, and I wish I could go and take the funds that we have available and buy 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever number of launch sites across the United States. I don't think that's financially possible at this point in time, but you know, we need to keep them, we need to cherish them, we need to continue to try to get new launch sites. It takes a lot of work, right? It's not you go knock on somebody's door, hey, you got a nice big field out there, can we fly our rockets? If you can achieve that, you know, more power to you. But it takes a lot of work to get, you know, more work than it takes to build a level 3 rocket. It's going to take you to get new launch sites. Right? So we have to be willing to work hard at it, and we have to be willing to work smart at it. You know, yes, the NAR can give you some information, but the people that are local, you know, you have to interface with your neighbors and the people around you. They're not going to, they don't want to talk to John Hockheimer from Alexandria, Virginia, if you're in, where are we? Grand Rapids, Michigan. You know, they want to talk to you all, but you're the people that they're going to interface with, not me. Okay? So, if you guys have ideas that we can help you with, by all means, let us know. But, you know, cherish your launch sites, keep working hard to get new ones, and let us help you as best we can. But it's work that you guys have to do. We can use more sections. You know, there's still spots in the country that don't have sections. We have a couple sections in Alaska now. That's great, man. These guys banded it. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they have like float planes or whatever that they drive around on, but there's more than 5 people that banded together in somewhere in Alaska. So we need to continue to keep our sections active. And we need more volunteers to do things to improve our services, locally and nationally. Right? We have 1 paid employee right now. That's it, 1 paid person. Everybody else in this organization that's doing stuff is a volunteer. Now we're starting to realize that we've grown big enough that we may have to start paying a few more things for services to keep our things going, because the volunteer core that we have just isn't, you know, some of these things are just full-time jobs, so we need to start paying for some of these services. But you know, there's lots of things that volunteers can do that we need help with. All right, so I think I'm almost done. So what's our value? You pay still $62 a year. I became a life member pretty quickly because I just kept forgetting to renew, and it was just easier to send a check and be done with it. But $62 a year hasn't changed in a long time, has it?
10 years.
10 years. Okay, so we're not increasing our costs with our dues with inflation. $25 for age 25 and under. It's a great value. You get the magazine, you get $5 million worth of insurance. It includes fire insurance. We have high power certifications through level 3. You can do in-country, locally, nationally, international competitions, and we have a family member discount, so we'll even take more off of your bill. What can you do? Right? Fly safe. I can't overemphasize it enough. Fly safely. The one bad accident is going to be really, really detrimental. Right? Recruit new NAR members. Get more people to fly. It may just be second nature to me, but you know, I got here on Saturday, and there's a family, and the father and the mother with the little baby, 3 little kids, and the kids are just in awe. And I said, oh, you know, did you come to fly? And so I was like, well, we just came to watch. And I looked at the kids and they're like, yeah, we came to watch. And I said, you don't have to watch. You can fly rockets right now today. We will give you rockets. And the Haas had the take it and fly it program. And those kids flew right. And I just happened to see them afterwards. And the father was like, yeah, they flew rockets. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're in trouble now. So, yeah, but that's all it takes. I mean, we have I happen to be in the Novar section, and we have a big section, you know. So we get lots of people coming in, but we get people like that too, and they come right now, and you know, oh, I'm just here to watch, and I'm like, no, you don't have to watch. You can fly a rocket. We fly rockets and help them fly. Take turns volunteering. We've got jobs that people can do. Do some community outreach. I almost forgot to tell you guys. Community outreach, okay? Tomorrow morning, no.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning, yes.
Yeah.
I forgot. So tomorrow morning, Ed LaCroix and myself, our Golden Voices are going to be on NPR in your local area at 10:30. So tune in. I don't even know what the station is, but 10:30 tomorrow morning, you get to hear Ed and John, the Ed and John show, or the John and Ed show, or you know, they don't know what's coming from. Yes.
Did that occur nationally or locally? Because I've been trying to get the local station.
88.5.
No, I mean, was it submitted at a national level, on a local level? Because I've been sending stuff to NPR here and they just don't even respond.
It's coming through the local
NPR.
and it's the local NPR and it's,
Michigan Radio,
Michigan Radio?
104.1.
Okay.
okay. And the reason that we've been asked and we're involved in this is the City of Grand Rapids and the Convention and Visitors Bureau think this is a cool thing, and they're helping us promote it, and they want to promote themselves. So they have people that work for them that deal with the media, and those people contacted us, and they want us to be on the radio. And even better than that, Thursday morning, we're going to be on Fox TV 3 times, 6:30, 7:30, and 8:30. We're going to be out on your local TV station.
Is Randy going to be with you?
Randy,
Both way?
I don't know.
Take him if you can. He's the best guy on TV I've ever seen.
You haven't seen that. Yes.
Do you know what is the show stateside?
If
The show you're going to be on, is it stateside?
tomorrow?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Honestly, like, I think their program is really, this program of
Right.
the stuff is really good, but they're not giving me a whole bunch of information. So all I know is I'm supposed to be there at 10:15 and 10:30 is when we go on the air.
So it's live, it's not.
I think it's live, yeah, so I should be really
10:30 is in the middle of a national program.
Okay.
They may be taping it for broadcast. There's a stateside program that airs at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you have someone that knows the local details on the local clubs and the like that would be useful if they get questions or anything, or to build membership?
I don't think, I saw the questions they're asking, it's not too much of that, but I will continue looping some of the work of people. The question, the NPR show, they just want to know about rocketry. Alright, so we're going to do some community outreach, and that'll be fun. And then they're also making, I think part of tomorrow after we do the radio thing, they've also been taking, they said they've been taking some video, and they want to do some interviews with some different people. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is producing like a 2-minute video spot that they'll then give to us for our use. So that'll come out of this week as well. So yeah, some cool free advertising. Okay, so do outreach. Make sure everyone knows and takes advantage of our scholarships and grants. Joyce and Mark and a whole bunch of people have been pouring through lots of grant applications and scholarship applications. And we got $35,000 more that I think I'm going to have to write a whole bunch of checks coming up pretty soon for scholarships and grants. And above all, be safe, have fun, pay forward, and inspire your future and our future. I think that's it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just using your very own statistics on voting, with your having 5,500 Facebook members and the total membership being 6,600. You have disenfranchised for voting on the board members 1,100 people. Why are you going and disenfranchising members of this organization?
I don't totally understand your question, but.
But
There are people
you're
that are
not
not on
allowing
the
us to
computer.
be heard. You're not allowing us to be, communicate what we feel. You're shutting down the membership. You are not allowing us to communicate, even though you keep saying you want to listen to us and hear what we have to say. What you do is, in actual fact, is shut us up.
Well, I apologize, and I'm sorry you feel that way, that it's not our intention.
I'm not the only ones. There are people back, friends of ours back in Kansas who are not here, who did not get to vote on trustees membership because you did not do mailings, and you would not allow them to get onto the communication board to go and talk about the SQS. You went and you would shut us up so that we could not go and communicate anything, because you had a moderator on the SQS board who would not let us go and say anything that we had opinions about what was going on with SQS. You were shut us out.
Again, I apologize that we will continue to strive to do additional things to do that. We know that the voting is down this year, and we're going to look into ways, the people that handle the voting parts of the organization are going to look into ways of increasing voter participation. And we're trying some new things. Some things work really well. So apparently, at least in your opinion, this didn't work as well. So
it wasn't just me. It was all in voting. It was
your
also with
collective-
SQS. We were not allowed to be allowed to communicate what our opinions were and voice things about SQS either. We were shut out of that also because of the moderator.
And my email box continues to be open, and you communicated some of this to me, and we're talking about it now. So we'll continue to do as best we can. So that's all I can offer, Bonnie.
But you weren't listening. We cannot communicate. We weren't allowed to talk about SQS. Why were, you're not wanted. You're shut out. What you're having to say isn't important.
I can talk to Bonnie if you want, but.
Yeah, you didn't want to talk to me, Ed.
Sure.
Well,
We tried to talk to you last year, Ed, and you shut us out.
never
You wouldn't
shut
let us
anyone
post
out.
anything.
I never shut anyone out.
Yes, you did.
No,
You
I'm
wouldn't
sorry.
let us post
The
anything.
page that was put up for members to comment with regards to what was known at that time as the SQS stated right up front that all comments were to include proposals and suggestions for changes. When Mark sent in his 2 comments, one regarding Super Rock, the other one regarding, what's the second one regarding? Because I reviewed them both. I emailed them back to you, and I said, Mark, you made good recommendations. However, you didn't propose to us what you would like to see us change. Please resubmit with a proposal for change. You did not resubmit. That's not closing him out. That's
We did
simply
resubmit.
holding him. That is
We
simply
did
holding him
resubmit.
to what we said right up front for participation in that comment form. And that said, this is not Croc. This is not a discussion group. This is a tell us what you want us to do to make the rule book better. And those who submitted on those terms, or those who made an opinion statement, and I responded back and said, good point, but what would you like us to do to consider to change or improve? They were all asked to always resubmit, even verbatim what they originally said. Just say, Mark could have said, oh, I know what the Super Rock was about, total impulse. He could have just come back and said, I'd like to see Super Rock total impulse limited to 10 Newton seconds. That was something that we could have discussed and was an action item.
You did not give that specifics. You
Yes,
went and-
I have
and
the
you did
email
resubmit.
copies with me You can read them.
Don't.
You can read them, Bonnie. I have them in my bag here.
Then why are you saying we did not resubmit when we resubmitted stuff?
You
And
did, Bonnie.
we did.
I'm sorry, Bonnie. We have known each other a good many years.
Uh-huh. And we're not being listened to.
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry if you feel that
We'll
way.
continue to try to improve our communication.
I got a question for Ed then. If something was submitted with a proposal,
Yes.
what happened beyond that point? Because I did one of those where it said, hey, you know, here's something, and I just never heard anything ever again. I mean, was that just like discussed and then dropped, or was it discussed? And because I don't think there was any, I mean, if there was a feedback for it was wrong, was there feedback where it was right? You know what I mean?
I think I know what I know what you mean. Anything we received that was I'd like to see that if there was a proposal to amend, change, or alter what we already had put out there for member consideration, we then use that input and to make change as long as it fit the requirements of our mission statement. Our requirements of the mission statement, which is to expand competition.
So the main point is that there was no discussion, you're right, there was not a discussion board, a discussion issue at a forum. And I think
Right.
that's what a lot of people are wondering, is that the discussion seems to have been about 8 people, and it might have been input, but the input just, you know, went off in the air, and there was not really, you know, it's like, well, gee, you guys, you 8 people really had a good idea, but what about the, you know, there seems to be a big current here, and it just seems like it's a very interesting situation.
I can only say that the opening statement to that comment forum simply said this was an area for direct input to the sporting code that we were working on, and that we wanted your input, suggested changes, and that it wasn't a place for discussion. It wasn't make a comment in order to generate more commentary.
No, I understand that. I'm saying, where's the discussion? There's 5,000 members and 500 people.
The discussion that you're generating is amongst the 5 of us on the committee to consider your proposal for change relative to the rules that we had presented. And if it met what we considered the goal of trying to expand competition, then the result of your comment was included in the changes
So
we made.
8 people can change the entire course of contest rocketry, is that what you're saying?
I think the confusion here is you guys wanted input on what you were doing, but anybody who had input that wasn't covered by what you were doing had no avenue of discussion.
Exactly.
Meaning it was a preordained thing, this is what we're doing.
There's other forums that people can
I think that's what
engage
they're
in
getting at.
discussion.
There was no other
What,
forum.
contest rock? You want us all to bitch like people? I mean, where is the discussion of the change of contest rocketry? And you guys look at us like we're like deer in the headlights. We're changing contest rocketry, and you aren't listening to us. Nothing is being accepted or understood or even debated about, gee, explain to us why we're wrong. But we have all these questions, and there's just no answer. It's very strange.
I'll have
Are there
to
any-
close this by saying
Okay,
this.
see, and here's the town hall meeting once a year, and once again, we're not talking about it. And I'm done. Okay, thanks. That's it. Matt Johnson's done. Fine.
I just want to say that at the very outset of the work that we began 2 years ago, I was on Contest Rocketry. I supplied email contact directly to me. I never
Rock,
took that down.
Contest Rock is a private forum that has nothing to do with the NAR. Contest Rock is a bunch of people who want to complain, has nothing to do with the NAR or Contest Rocketry, period.
Okay.
Contest Rock is made up by somebody in his basement. I don't care. What about the rest of us? There's 5,000 members, and 8 people can decide the course of Contest Rocketry. Is there an answer to my question? Is there an answer? Am I completely off base, or is there an issue here?
The NAR doesn't host any free-for-all forum.
Correct.
They would have to ask them to create something brand new.
Who made the pink book? How many people made the pink book 20 years ago? 8
50
people?
years ago.
8 people?
Actually,
Was it voted on? Was it just accepted? Was it ever voted on? Was it just, okay, there's the pink book? Is that how it works?
It's voted on by the board of directors.
The board, who sits in a room with a locked door.
Who are elected by the members of the organization.
I do want to correct one thing. It is not a locked door. As John said earlier, When they're in executive session, yes,
Right.
it is a locked door, but the vast part of board meetings is not a locked door. Anybody can
Okay.
walk in.
All I can say is there seems to be an impression that the SQ production has not had much discussion.
We provided 90-day opportunity to input to us directly.
Input.
That's correct.
Other
And-
questions?
Okay.
Other
I guess
comments?
that's what.
Okay.
I've already made my vote, it's right here. It says sport fly. Well, I've got another question on the same topic, I guess. What's the current percentage of NER members that are involved in competition? About 2-3% maybe?
Yeah.
How many of the 97% of the NER members that are not involved in competition were talked to find out why they're not and what it would take to get them involved?
I have another to refine.
I don't know how to answer your
Those
question,
of us
Bob.
who used to go in and do competition and are no longer doing competition, asking them why they're not doing competition.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what
you
to
answered
say.
me, I didn't hear it.
I don't have an answer for you, Bob.
Thank you.
Other? Yes, ma'am.
John, you mentioned Flight Ticket. We are out at the field all week, hopefully between the hours of 10 and 3. Thursday, you'll leave a little bit early. Anybody who has people in the area they want to send out, we are down at the sport range. I have 60-some rockets left to give away.
So it's any person 12 years old or younger, or any first-time flyer of any age.
So they get a rocket, they get an engine, they get to fly. No.
Any other? This way.
You were asking about section and renewals. My section closed this last year. We had 5 members, we lost 1. We were down to 4. Out of those 4, 2 of us were competition. Now my question is that we support over 3,000 kids in the Kansas City area between 3 volunteers. We had 6 weeks of weekends where we're doing nothing but scout flying. I had no contact from the Naram about why we were closing our section. Why is that? I mean, we're out there, we're doing outreach, we're talking to students. We launched 1,000 rockets in 6 hours for 1 school. And nobody, we decided to close because nobody contacted us with as few people as we felt like we were left in the lurch.
Did you, I'm not offering this as an excuse, I don't know why you weren't contacted, but did you attempt to contact the NAR and ask for help for?
We felt like we've been ignored.
But
the
how,
entire time. No,
but how do we know?
It's not just about us reaching out to you and asking for help. It's also you contacting us and asking us for information. It's just like with what's going on. We were not contacted. And I feel like my section would have a lot more students, a lot more people that are not transitioning over from a first-time flyer into constant NAR members. And I have no information on how to do And I'm asking people, local people that I know, because I know very few people on the board. And
But again,
asking for help from the
but did
people
you-
that I know to try and grow. We never grew.
But we have contact, president at NAR.org, all our contact information is displayed on the NAR contacts pages.
But it still ends up being the situation where we're not getting anybody transferring from any of those student initiatives, any of those scout initiatives, into becoming NAR members. And that's why we died off. I was the youngest member, and I'm 39 years old. Everybody else was 59 or older in my section. And we could not grow. So we just felt like, that's it. We're tired. We're volunteering all the time. And we got no support. So we resigned the section. My big question is, why did nobody contact us when we resigned?
Can I just make, he mentioned before, feel your emotion. I sympathize for your situation, great work on outreach, but he had a bullet point up there. Everyone up there except one person is a volunteer. So I think, to me it's a little bit, ask not what your NAR can do for you, but what you can do for your NAR to a certain extent. Get involved. There's a membership director.
If you need help, let them know.
Like, hey, do you have any ideas for us? What's worked elsewhere? It's got to be a two-way street.
I don't disagree with you on that it is partially my fault. But it's also the fact that we felt like that we had, how many contests, how many regionals did we have in our section over the last 5 years? We had 4, and only one other section, 2 sections came out of how many years? We had one person from each of those sections. One from St. Louis, one from the other side of Kansas. And that was it.
So, at the risk of being stoned to death here, sometimes it's okay to say no to those outreach opportunities, right? Okay, that's one point that I'd like to make, right? For example, we were approached by a scout leader who wanted to do a launch that would involve more kids than we thought our small group of people, which by the way was bigger than yours, and you had more people to fly than we were being told we had to fly. We didn't think we could support that launch. So we declined that opportunity, even though it would have given us exposure to a much broader potential set of members. So there are times, I would say, the sections who are stretched, or feeling stressed, or burned out, it's okay to say no.
Or offer
And then
what you can do with
the
the
question I have for you is, what are you doing about your rocket flying now? If you've disbanded your section, where are you flying rockets?
We still have the same markets available. It's provided by the local community.
And they don't require you to carry the insurance or
They
anything?
have their own when we fly.
I see. Okay.
So
we can't use ours.
Yeah. And so it made, it made no sense for us to continue and it's free membership. It's a free license for us to go and fly our flight.
The other rule that I like to apply to these situations in terms of setting your expectations for you is that for many years, the NIRA section did a make it take it at the National Hobby Show that was in Chicago for many years. And we would build upwards to 1,000 rockets. 2,000. Or 2,000 in some cases, yes. I remember how my feet felt at the end of that week. And then we would tell the kids, okay, now you finished your rocket, here's a map to our flying field. We have a launch next week. We'll give you a free engine if you show back up and come fly with us. And out of those 1,000 kids, if we got even 50 of them to show up, we thought that was a big deal, right? And then we would have material ready for them at that launch to say, oh, here's how you become a member of our club. It costs you a grant sum, $3 a year to be a member of this club. And we have regular launches and meetings, yada, yada, yada. If we got one of those 50 kids one of them assignment, that was pretty difficult, right? So I have this mantra that says, every step you ask people to make more and more commitment, you lose
99%.
Right? The 1,000 goes to 100, the 100 goes to 10. Right? You have to keep that in mind in terms of, even though you may be hitting lots and lots and lots of people, we might be America's 87th most popular hobby.
I'd be impressed.
I know that doesn't help you, it doesn't lessen your
Maybe
disappointment
870.
in what you had, but those are sort of the raw facts of trying to recruit these kids who are involved in scouting and baseball and basketball and, band and all this other stuff.
So the thing is, it's not the kids' fault. It's
Absolutely
the
not.
parents.
Absolutely.
The parents
They're
are not
making, they're making choices about where they think their kids' activity and interest is, and that's what you have to do.
So the NAR should, I believe, in my opinion, was great. Target the adults. Get information out to the adults about rocketry. Some of them may be born in rocketeers, but the parents are the ones that's going to drive it, not the kids. If the parents are involved, the parents are excited, they're going to bring the kids along.
So, when you have these big events, are you talking to the parents? What are they?
Oh, absolutely.
What do they want? Are they just not interested? I mean, I can't.
And some of the launches where the low fighter rockets, when they're done, they need them at the garbage. And we covered hundreds of rockets like that.
Okay, I got a couple others.
Back to the bigger point of this question was, you have this in your data, and you're talking about a number of people that are members of sections, for example, of losing section. What mechanism exists in our organization whereby a chartered section for I don't know how many years disappears? What follow-up is there to say, why did we lose this section? Who can we contact? Is there any sort of mechanism there?
Maybe the section activities committee could monitor more closely the activities of the sections, and when they see membership dropping in a year or less regionals, less participation, it could trigger something with them. There's 174 sections. I don't know how many people are on the committee, but they could each have a certain percentage that they cover, and look at that, a committee of one.
It's a committee of one.
That could be,
Something, I could be off on this, I haven't competed in 18 years. All I do is show up at Naram and take pictures. But I'm seeing a trend in some of the wording that's being spoken at this meeting. And I think I see where part of the problem is. Mr. Hockheimer, how many people are at headquarters at NAR? How many people compose the operating personnel of the NAR?
1.5.
Okay? So basically the number of red shirts.
No.
I mean, the volunteers.
There are no volunteers at headquarters. Headquarters is in Marion, Iowa.
The board, the committees. How many people are we talking about?
Oh, well, the board is 9 people.
The board is 9 people.
Okay, and what, maybe a dozen in committees? Okay, there is no NAR organization. We're not talking about Walmart with 1,000 employees and lawyers and teams. We're talking about a number of people you can count on your two hands.
No, there's
a limit to what they can do.
There's probably about 50 volunteers within the NAR. The L3CC alone has over 30 people on it.
But that's just the L3CC.
Well, no, but the point is you also have the various standing committees. You have several people on the contest board. You have multiple people on standards and testing.
Well, my point is, it's not a magical, massive organization that just sees all these problems and go, oh, send the team out to fix that problem. It just doesn't exist. So we either have to build it or we have to adapt and work around it. That's why it's volunteer-based.
So, I don't know. I don't know your name, so I can't just. But Blake. Blake. I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question of do we monitor that. I will find out. It's my impression in talking with Chuck. I think we do. Now we may not be wholly effective at monitoring it, but Chuck Neff, the volunteer that interacts with sections, is doing a ton of work trying to reach out and help sections. And if you contacted him and got nothing, I would be dumbfounded with that.
I don't think I got into contact with him.
Did you try
so-
contacting him, or you said he didn't get in touch with you?
Either way, there was a breakdown in communication. Is really what I'm going after, is that it's on both sides. There was a breakdown in communication. And that's a major problem. And that's my question is, what are we going to do as an organization to resolve that?
So I'm telling you, the first step that I'm going to do is go back and talk to Chuck and find out more of what he is doing on a very regular basis. But I'm also going to talk to him and all the section activities, and at some point we're going to find out who our new elected people are in there, and we're going to reassign committee duties on the board, and whoever's assigned to section activities, this is going to be one of the things that they need to take on. Why are we not communicating more with our sections if this is a major problem for a section like yours and some others? So it's the best we can do right now. I will get back to you with what I found from Chuck and get him in contact with you. So.
Appreciate it.
And I wasn't trying to be critical of any of the committee members or anything. It was just, this communication wasn't made, this wasn't responded to, how, a suggestion, this was just a suggestion as to something that we might be able to do to improve that.
Right. I totally appreciate it, and I'll tell you all, I got a thick skin. I have a job that makes this look like a cakewalk, right? So, I'm a volunteer. Your board are volunteers. We're trying to do the best we can to help you. We're trying to do the best we can to make contests better. We're falling short in some parts of it. We're trying to do the best we can to get the word out to get people to vote. We're trying to save money by not mailing 6,000 pieces of mail that 5,900 of them never get opened or whatever. So we're trying lots of things to save money and do the best we can. Right? We don't succeed 100% of the time, but give us feedback and tell us how we can help and be constructive, and we'll try our best to right the situation. And that's all we can do, and that's all I can promise. Are there any other things?
I'd like to tell Blake a quick story, if I might. My father was a scoutmaster for 35 years, and he earned the Silver Beaver Award, and we put it in his pocket with it. And we came to Camp Gerber for dozens of years in a row. And well, he did anyway. And my brother and my father invented the model building merit badge, and the way to earn that merit badge was to build a rocket, fly a rocket at scout camp all these years. And that merit badge eventually turned into space exploration merit badge. Okay, so we didn't even know the NAR existed back in the mid-70s. We were just flying rockets for fun all those years. And I don't know what your avenue is to put your club out there to be recognized, but a lot of clubs have websites and so on. And our club was contacted by the Muscatella Council 2 weeks before this NARI. And me and my wife single-handedly went out to our field and entertained 80 people, 50 kids and 30 adults, to fly rockets. And we pulled it off, and it was extremely fun. And we did it all out of the goodness of our heart and didn't expect 1 penny, and they donated us $250. So, I read
I'm going to come back to the point that I had. I don't know if any of you who have dealt with scouts have heard of Camp Nash. Camp Nash is one of the largest scout camps in the nation, and it's based just outside of Kansas City. They had one of the most amazing fields that I've ever flown on. And we were out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, didn't leave until 9 o'clock at night, helping all of these kids go out and fly those rockets. And, I loved every instance of it. I loved it all. It's why I do what I do. I feel like this is almost a full-time volunteer, a full-time job for me outside of my job. I love it that much. But it's one of those things that you kind of get to the point where it's like, you know, we're throwing spaghetti on the wall and nothing's sticking. And I'm not finding another way or a different way or a better way of getting that spaghetti to stick.
It doesn't. I'll be honest, it doesn't. My experience working with scout organizations, they're one of the worst organizations for us to recruit members.
This was the first year that we did it with the Scouts.
Okay, but the experience is if you were expecting them to be signing up for your organization in droves, not going to happen. As Bunny's experience is, okay, the Scouts, they have a mission to go do a space exploration. If it's Boy Scouts, they want to do an exercise to expose the kids to different activities. You're just one of many activities. If you happen to gain a member or interest in the process, thumbs up. But avoid disappointment, aim low.
It's also kind of the same thing with the schools that we've ended up. It's just a class that they have to do, and then they're done.
Any other? All right, thank you. So I have all my cheat notes on my hand. I used to do this in school, right? So if there's nothing else, I'd like to call the business meeting to order. And Joyce, do we have a quorum?
How do we know we have a
Do we
quorum?
have 25 members here?
I think we have 25 members here because we had 50 people vote
There you go.
tonight.
Yeah, but Kaplan voted 3 times.
Yeah, but he's from
Chicago.
Would you like the election results then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Read us the election results.
Yes, election results in order of number of votes. John Hockheimer, 89 votes. Kevin Johnson, 76 votes. Randy Bodway, 69 votes. And John Thompson, 54 votes. So there's a pretty good spread between all 4 of them. It's, and the 3 new trustees, one re-elected, John, and 2 new, Randy Bodway and Kevin Johnson.
Thank you, Joyce. Any business from the floor? And where are you at? Good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
No second.
There's no discussion.
Oh yeah, he didn't know what the heck I was talking about, but I kind of got him. Well, I don't think he was. So you were thinking he was going to write the article?
He said that the
Naram died.
He wanted it rewritten and get it to the magazine. That would be good. And I said to you, if you want to contact him and ask him about what information he has on James Farrell, we're talking about these various people to do different things. And, you know, various people, parts of the history of the organization. So he has some information.
Okay, all right. I was going to go straight to Boss and get his stuff.
He already has, he's already talked to him, he's done it. Has it, I don't know exactly, I haven't seen it yet. But it may have been something of interest to you.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
a picture of any of the people who are setting up those 6 foot tall? The story I'm going to write up is the altitude, and a lot of the story is going to be about the different types of approach that people were using.
I did not get Chan, I saw Chan working on it, but I didn't actually.
He's going to use it again tomorrow, so
or check with Todd. I haven't written up on that. He was out there at times that I wasn't.
Sounds like you team up and work on the council.
Expecting a zombie outbreak? Be prepared?
I have,
Yep, extra large.
Well, talking to my
because I don't know. There's R&D things about that too.
Might be our last two, buddy, for different reasons. Financial. My dad's left me a lot of debt.
Which is
He left me a lot more debt than I can possibly pay on a piece of delivery driver salary.
That's the other one. Is when you and I were doing things originally,
tomorrow.
Not really.
I wouldn't give up on it.
Of course, but these problems are well beyond my pay grade. They're in my name, yes. And then it's not a matter of having to pay them, it's a matter of they'll take everything from me if I don't. I can't even declare bankruptcy. This is one of the issues that means a tax issue to survive bankruptcy. Yeah, it's really shitty. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do about it either, except move on and hope something happens. I'm desperately trying to lose weight so I can survive it.
I'd like to see it. It's not easy. I haven't been to get it all. I talked to the time that makes me the second I got it. Change the diet around. And that makes it
interrupted and I lose my track. Broke me balance while I was trying to
Shouldn't the business meeting have accepted the year's report?
How the eyes go. Good.
That struck me as that's one thing they always do is read down.
What? Anyone say yeah? Is that good? They just don't work? Can they be fixed?
I'm going to try. It's not easy. I'm seeing cancer now. The thing thought it was bone cancer. I'm pushing out antibodies like 10 times a day. It's called
Your body's fighting something. Maybe medical mistakes. You talk to a lawyer? Huh? Do it. Irrelevant. They'll never see that lawsuit. They'll never have access to that. That's not how it works. That's not how that works, buddy. You have no worry about retribution and stuff like that. No, you'll never know. And if he refuses to serve you because of something like that, you might still get it. Trust me.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the center ring, boys and girls and new trustees. That would be you, Randy. Behind the pylon? Oh, yeah, I don't know if I want to. Scott, want to see? Yeah, have a seat. Actually, I'm going to set it up. Just start. I haven't seen Chad yet. What's that? You can always come forward, Bob, if you're really interested in hearing it. So, to my fellow members, the last 22 months, the Expanding Competition Subcommittee and myself, Scott Alexander, Glenn Fevier, Jim Filler, and Chad Ring have been working to recreate the format by which we're going to fly competition rocketry, at least in the near future. When we last met at Narcon, I believe we were still calling it the SQS, but it has changed. It is now called the National Rocketry Competition. A little snappier name, I think. So, I want to say that the committee is simply representative of all of you. I think I've said this before. We're 5 competitors. We are you people. We are not some non-competition aligned group of people. We have done a good deal of work, I don't know how many hundreds of hours, trying to craft something that met a mission statement that's not about you, and it's not about me. It is about competition going into the future for people who are largely not flying it now for the reasons we chose to remove weighting factors and points, because we felt that the structure that had led to the slow decline of competition was possibly rooted in those elements. I say this extemporaneously, based on the reflections of the last 2 years of work on this. And I know this has probably been very difficult for many in this room to accept. But I will say this. I'm as old or older than any competitor in this room
Respectfully, Trip. And this has not been a difficult journey for me to make. The new format I'm extremely excited about, and to be honest, I might not have ever thought that way before. So this is a review of where we're going. August 5th is when the NRC will begin. We have a link to the new sporting code. How many people here have been on the website, downloaded, or at least looked at the new sporting code? Okay? For those of you who have not yet, I encourage you to do so. It's actually, I don't know, if Chad were here, he would tell you how many fewer words it is. So we accomplished something in that regard. Contest and NRC years. So I just want to point out the fact that between Naram's, 2 schedules are running. We're all used to a contest year. The contest year is, we now define, it hasn't changed greatly, but it now will begin the day after Naram ends, and it will begin, and it ends the last day of Naram. So Naram is now actually included in the contest year. Right now, it sort of hangs precipitously out in the void of non-contest year. The second is the NRC year, which also begins the day after Naram ends, and it ends on June 30th, and is more in the traditional sense. It provides the contest board run by Steve Humphrey the opportunity to collect all of the results and present the results of the NRC in terms of who will qualify to compete for national championships and other awards. Dan?
June 30th, is that the last day you can fly a contest, or the last day you have to submit results, or both?
Well, it would be the last day that you could fly a contest.
Or qualification.
Right. And at the end of the NRC year, June 30th, the scoreboard, which I think most of you have heard about now, but let me quickly back up again. How many of you were at NARCon? Well, the scoreboard is going to be the online presence that Chris Kidwell has been developing for us, which is where, during the course of the NRC year, your contest scores in the various events, and we're going to see those events, you can push those results up. The contest director will push those up, and they'll be confirmed by a regional contest chair. But that's where, at any point in time, you'll be able to see how you're performing with respect to your fellow competitors in your competition division, in your age division. So we presented the fact that the NRC has a core of 8 events. And the basis is that these 8 events represent challenge, but they represent simplicity at the same time, and they represent low cost. In the interest in trying to make this as approachable and engaging and potentially affordable for the new flyer, for the young flyer, oh, for that matter, even the older flyer. I mean, we don't always all have all the money in the world. You know, the bottom line is, it all costs something. And these events, as we all know, because basically everyone here is a competitor with some seasoning, knows this is the core of a lot of our competition. This is the stuff that we fly at most Narams year in and year out. And then we branch off to that, things like G helicopters. So we took and we based the engine selections around, again, you see a lot of the motor selection is 13 millimeter, low cost, simplicity. We have to get into 18 millimeter in order to fly eggs and payloads effectively. But beyond that, again, we strive for a very simple and inexpensive approach to flying the NRC. And from these events, the contest board and the contest director, Scott Alexander is the contest director for Naram 60. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that yet, but he's the contest director for Naram 60. So, contest board picks four events from the core list, the contest director picks 2, and we did arrive at the 6 events for this first inaugural NRC year. So this has been up on the website. Anyone here aware that these 6 events existed because of the website? So that's a smaller turnout of hands. Did people go looking for these events on the website? Was it because you don't know about it because you didn't know to look there? All right. We all know the front splash page. If you scroll down far enough, and I was always asking for a higher position, they would only move that announcement up so far, but those events are listed. So again, the point of the NRC prior to Naram is that you will be able to fly any or all of these events as much as you want, as frequently as you want. We'll get to that in the course of the show. But these events will all be at Naram next year. So you're not flying these for no reason. You are flying these because you will fly these at Naram in addition to other events that the contest director and his crew have yet to select and add on to giving you a full Naram. Craftsmanship and so forth. Age divisions. Who can compete? Any NAR member? Anybody here able to point out the difference in this slide from the one that was at NARCon? Of course, you'd have to have been at NARCon. Yeah, well, you were in on the meeting. All right.
Well, you asked anyone, so
So-
I got a couple options.
Well, B goes through college.
Right. The most significant change, honestly, is the fact that A division begins at 0. We did have a cutoff at 7 years, but we had a bit of we had a point brought to our attention, and frankly, the committee, despite having discussed the whole age and when to start A division and how to cut it off and how to treat it, we shanked on this. We missed it. And the board discussed this, and only because the board could make a change, because it had already ratified this sporting code, and only the board can make the changes at this point. There's no RCP process for this, right? We removed the 7-year to 14 and made it 0. This is the way it used to be years ago. You know that. There was no age cutoff. There was a reason there was an age cutoff put in the pink book some number of years ago. Won't go into the details of that. It's not important. But there was a reason for it. But under the NRC's format, there is no need for that arbitrary adjustment. And so the point is that if someone under the previous setup was 7 years of age at the start of the contest year, fine, they got to fly the contest year. We made that a hard limit. If you were 6 and turned 7, in January, you're gonna have to wait till the end of the contest year. Seemed like that was maybe not the best idea.
So this is your age based on July 1st or June 30th?
Well, it was based on July 1st, when it was a 7-year cutoff.
No, the other end of the age, 14.
Oh, yes, that is based on July 1st. And so if you're 14 and turn 15, for instance, you'll remain in A division because that was the age you started the contest year on. So.
Was that the start of the contest year, though, not July 1st?
Pardon me?
It's the start of the contest year.
Oh, that's
July 1st. Old habits.
Yeah, die hard.
August or whatever.
Right. So this is far more inclusive, and the operation of the NRC doesn't mean that a parent who is potentially an R member who has a young son or daughter who isn't, they can't get them an R membership because the rule requirements being that it takes 2 NAR members, they can't make that young person a NAR member, and that they can't go out and just together fly NRC events, or the other way around. The young son or daughter, Dad, I would really like to start flying some NRC events, Well, if dad just buys a membership, they can go out then, at a family rate, they could then go out and just fly NRC events, the two of them. I mean, the potential, I see the potential opportunity in that situation. So I hope on reflection that you will as well.
Ed, before you go on.
Yep.
Does that team line apply that A and B divisioners can no longer be parts of teams with adults?
No, they can still be, because note the bottom, teams fly in the division of the oldest member. So if you want to team up with a young person, Bob, they'll simply fly with you in D division.
But there's no team division?
Well, D is team.
Why not just make a T?
How much age kids wanted to team?
I'm sorry?
What if some high school and college age kids wanted to team together?
If a pair of young people, 18 and 21, want to fly together as a team, they would fly in B division.
As a team?
As a team.
In B division?
If an A division, if a 14-year-old wants to fly with an 18-year-old, they would fly in B division because the teams fly in the division of the oldest member.
Okay, got it.
I have a slight problem with the age zero. I have a slight problem with the age zero in a parent that has an 18-month-old that barely knows how to stick the igniter in the rocket, but yet the parent built the rocket for the kid. You know, and where do we find, is the kid inept enough and smart enough to do everything himself, to build a rocket, fly himself? What age should that really be? 18 months, 3 years, 4 or 5 years? I mean, shouldn't there really be
43
an age that, you know?
Well, I want to say again, age divisions, the A division used to be 0 before this particular situation occurred historically that created an older age cutoff in A division.
What that situation was.
Well, you can imagine.
But
You pretty much described it.
Yeah.
He was asking what was that reason. You can imagine what the reason was.
I know what
There's
the
no
reason
need. There's no need to discuss that.
I know. So, but what I want to say is this, and we're going to get to this later in the show, but what it boils down to is this. How many people here right now want to raise their hand and say, I have plans to cheat? I mean, come on, who's going to cheat? I want to know. Because if we can't trust each other, then there isn't going to be somebody flying an 18-month-year-old. It's not going to happen. If a parent wants to team up with their son or daughter, or wants to help that son or daughter, if they're 5 years old, fly, there are ready-to-fly rockets that they can legitimately and fairly help their 5-year-old fly, however. Would you not agree?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I suppose.
Yeah.
And also, you would hope that in those conditions, that the parent or the older sibling decides to bring them on as a team, and it's a mentoring situation. And as a team, if you've got a 4-year-old out there flying with a 14-year-old and they're as a team, what's illegitimate about that?
So this, I'm talking about team, I'm talking about a 1-year-old that out here.
Well, what I'm
would
saying
have to be
is,
ready to fly a rocket. I mean.
we would hope, Dave, that the parent would then say they're part of my team and they're actually in B division. You see what?
I think I can fix this for you. The old system, there was an incentive to do things like that because there were points collected to national championship.
Yep.
The points are gone, there is no incentive anymore to play games with stuff like that.
The reason that the age cutoff was put in place was out of a gaming situation that had occurred because of what Bob was saying.
An alleged gaming situation. There you go.
That's good enough.
Right along.
Let's.
Okay, do you follow my? So, with no points to accrue, the incentive is gone. I mean, it doesn't mean that there isn't an incentive to want to do well in the NRC, depending on what your goals are, being a national champion or whatever. But I don't think there's likely to ever be a 3-year-old national champion. The system isn't going to function that way.
But you might have a 3-year-old who likes flying rockets because
precisely.
Lynn? Help her out.
If a problem arises, maybe we should worry about that and deal with it
There you go.
And that's what regional contest chairs are for too, isn't it? The regional chairs are out there and the contest directors.
Right.
There's safety mechanisms in the system.
Correct.
Yeah, if we have powerful reason to think somebody's trying to cheat or,
Then we
let's
deal
be
with
honest,
that.
the stakes
Right.
are low here, let's deal with it because we want to be honest people, but not sweat too much into it.
All right. The 3 simple steps to competing in the NRC. So you would go to the home page. We all know where contest flying is. Eventually there will be a link there that says sanction an NRC launch or record trial. Currently, the link says, to register an NAR launch. And there's a form there. I think many of you are familiar with it, which is where you provide your information in order to, quote, get your launch put on the NAR launch calendar so your members know what's going on and others can potentially find your event.
So that link's not active yet?
No, the link is active. That link is not active. That link is, that's what I'm hoping it will eventually say, because unfortunately I don't know the magic pixie dust HTML language to go in there and muck with WordPress and make it say what I'd like it to say now. I have to go through the channels and that takes time. So it will. Dr. Kidwell has been working hard on all of these issues, but it will say that. But you can go and, quote, sanction an NRC launch right now. Trip Matt asked me about that earlier this week, and I told him you can go there and you can sanction an NRC launch right now.
By going to register a launch and then doing all the additional stuff you need to do.
Right, and there is in that pull-down menu of things you can select, there's one that says NRC for NRC launch.
Thank you.
The registration process used to be for 21 years or basically senior divisions or older. It's now 18 years of age or older can sanction an NRC launch.
So once that is done with all this, I can give a live demo of the new pages on the website to show you the workflow of how to register a contest, how to all that kind of stuff.
And the person who registers the launch or sanctions the launch becomes the contest director. What's important to note about that is under the NRC, when you get together and fly the event, people, of course, they'll have flight cards and they'll have entry forms. And you'll still collect those, and that is still the information that will go into Contest Manager, and that is still data that will go back to your regional contest chair, ultimately for verification of the score that goes up on the scoreboard. Because, Bunny, if you sanction a launch, and a few of you get together and fly some NRC events, again, you'll collect that information, you'll put it into Contest Manager, you'll go to the scoreboard, and as the contest director, you'll push up the results for those people who flew to the scoreboard in their respective divisions, because you're the one who sanctioned the launch, you're the contest dude. And then you'll fire off your Contest Manager file electronically to the regional contest chair, and then he'll go on the contest board and he'll open up your Contest Manager file and he'll look at the scoreboard and go, yeah, all those scores match the data I got in that Contest Manager. In other words, you didn't make a typo on your end, inflate or deflate somebody's score in them. So that's the checks and balance, and once that occurs...
But the paperwork's still going back.
There's no paperwork.
Okay. You keep paperwork.
You keep paperwork. It's all electronic.
No more paper.
Right.
No more signatures either.
Right.
So
no
when
more
the regional contest board chairman is looking at a contest management file, how does he know that what is he verifying that file against?
He's verifying the scoreboard result. Mark Bundick flew 300 seconds in 8 streamer duration against Contest Manager file that says Mark Bundick flew 30 seconds in 8 streamer. Oh, I guess we got a 0 added there on the scoreboard. Wonder why that happened. His Contest Manager file says only 30. So he'll either check back with you, or at least he won't necessarily verify that 300 seconds that's up there because it's a conflict.
I'm doing the data entry twice.
We're working on it. The end goal is you upload the Contest Manager file and it
can do that as one of the options. Yes, Chris?
Yes.
So you do it once in Contest Manager and you upload the Contest Manager file and that'll do the posting. We're not there yet.
Okay, I understand. I'm trying, we have a launch coming up in August. I've indicated to you in the past that I'm willing to promote this activity as a way to get it off the ground, because, it might be interesting for our club to fly some contests.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure I understand the mechanics, so I'm not screwing around with this when we get ready to do it, right?
I understand. You're all who are going to do it in the next couple months, Bunny, August. Glenn has one happening end of August and so forth. I'm sorry, you're going to be some guinea pigs, okay? You're going to find bugs.
I don't mind that. I'm happy to do that, as long as I know, right? That's what's going to go on.
Yeah. And you'll have us to call, say, hey, it's not working. Could you help us out?
Oh, I have your email address.
Mark?
Does Contest Manager, what platforms does it actually run on right now?
Anything that runs Java 1.8.
Well, this guy or not?
Does it run Java?
I don't know. No, I mean, if it goes with tablets, it's a lot easier to have a tablet out in the field than a
Is it an Apple?
What?
Is it an Apple?
It's an Apple.
Yeah, it has Java built in.
What?
No.
No, I mean, but if it could, it'd be a lot easier to do data entry with one of these than having to have a PC out on the field.
Agreed.
Yeah. You want to help write the code?
I'm just.
Roger?
It just sounds like Mark was initially talking about having the dual data entry, and you said, oh no, you can upload Contest Manager. You're saying the dual data entry is going to allow the contest for the regional contest director to compare and make sure that it's there. Sounds like you suddenly lost that. You have one data entry, but you have no reference back to the original source for anybody who's doing quality assurance.
That was lost 12 or 14 years ago. There's not been a requirement to send flight cards in for about 12 or 14 years.
Yeah, it's been inconsistently done that way. A lot of CDs just mail off all the contest forms anyway, but we've not required that for several years. We do push that responsibility to the CD to, hey, just do the paperwork correctly. The checks we're doing is just make sure there's no egregious errors or double counting or that sort of thing.
So I'll end this slide with, there is no limit to the number of NRC launches an 18-year-old or older member may sanction in the course of an NRC year. So from this year, August 5th, until next June 30th, it's only limited by your desire to go and fly, your available time, and a second person, a minimum of a second NAR person to fly with unless you're under the age of 18, in which case that second person needs to be at least 18 years of age or older. Mike?
Does that mean that you're timing your own, if you only have two people and you're timing your own?
Yeah. No, that's why there's two people.
You only need one timer. Oh, it's you and two people?
No.
You and one other person, and if it's your flight, he's timing for you, and when his duration flight comes, you're timing for him.
The second person is RSO, check-in, returns, timing, altimeter reading.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
But timing.
But in that case, you don't have.
There's no limit to the number of launches you can do in a day?
No, absolutely. Well, there's no limit to the number of, there's no limit to flying one or up to the 6 events. Remember, you are flying like a micro contest. When you fly half a PD, do you go out to the range right now and fly as many attempts and then pick out the one that you like? No, you get 2 attempts, the sum of which is your score, and that's what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing.
If you had another person, you could do 2 timers.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
sure.
easier to get a
Sure.
time.
Right, but the rules have never required 2 timers. It's always allowed a single timer.
It's just been
I thought it
practiced.
was just if the second one didn't work for some reason.
That's the reason.
Okay, well, sure. So if you only have 2 people, you're take that risk. Yeah.
Teams used to require 2, but they had it for a while.
Fly your events. So your launch day arrives, you fly your NRC events per the current rule book. Again, launch may be held with as few as 2 members, where one of the 2 competitors is 18 years of age or older. Teams are treated Teams are treated as though they were a single individual. So in the case of, say, Alan, Buzz, and Mark, if they want to go out and fly some NRC events, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to find actually a fourth person if you were going to show up as a team of 3, because you do actually represent one individual in the grand scheme of all this. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And the NRC launch is a competition. If nothing else, you are, at that moment, you are competing against yourself, but in the grander scheme, you're competing against everybody in your division, because when you go back and put that score up on the scoreboard, that's when you see the result of your flying on that particular day, assuming, of course, that day's result was better than the last time you flew, because the scoreboard's only going to keep track of your best result. Okay? So at any NRC launch, all NRC events are permitted to be flown. So, Mike, for instance, if you and a friend go out to fly sanction an NRC launch, and your intent is only to fly 2 of the events. But if somebody else in your section goes, ooh, look, I see on the launch calendar, Mike sanctioned an NRC launch for our field this weekend, and you put in your launch events, oh, they're going to fly half APD and sea egg-loft altitude, but I want to fly the A rocket glide, and I want to fly something else. That's in the NRC selected events. They can show up under your sanction, and they can make those flights. You're allowing that by the very fact that you sanctioned the launch. Okay? And then you just work amongst yourselves as to who gets to time and who gets to verify an altimeter reading and that sort of thing.
So there are no events at an NRC launch. An NRC launch is by definition all the events.
It is by definition all the events. You're allowing any of them. Correct?
So that's any power class for any event.
No.
The 6 selected ones.
You're allowing the events, that 6 that I showed earlier, and those all have a specific, that were chosen for this new inaugural year. Like sea egg loft altitude, it's just the sea engine.
So I can't do a launch of another event that's one of the NRC events potentially.
No, you can do the ones that are listed.
You can do the ones, the 6 that are listed.
That are picked
That are
out,
listed.
that are selected for the contest year.
So I can't say that my field can't do a X, but I would still like to do an egg log. Is that just then for fun?
No, what we're saying is if the NRC event is sea egg-off altitude, they're not allowed to hold B egg-off altitude at all?
Well, they can fly the egg loft altitude, but it's a non-NRC event.
It just won't show up on the
It
scoreboard.
just won't show up on the scoreboard.
Right.
We're not gonna run leaderboards.
This is actually a separate question.
Yeah.
This is the one we've talked about a couple of times. If you want to hold a contest, similar to an old regional style, and I can tell you our Pittsburgh group is gonna do it, because we aren't giving up on it. Okay? Fly what you want. But if you sanction it, and people show up and say, I need to fly my sea egg loft, you sanctioned it. They're going to fly that event, and you're gonna help turn in the results for it. But your events are your events. You wanna give trophies for that, awards for that?
Go ahead.
Please do.
Fly G Super Rock, man, and give awards
Do
for
it.
it.
But, okay, then at Naram, there'll be the 6 events.
That's correct.
6, right?
The six events.
So the other, how many?
Could be, well, a really big NARM is 11 events, so maybe 5 more events.
10, 11, 8,
Yep,
9,
yep.
10, 11, something
Right,
like that.
9, 10, or
Rest of
11.
Those other events, the other 3, 4, 5,
Right?
can be anything?
Yeah, the contest director can make them anything he wants.
So if you want to do
G helicopter.
G Super Rock,
You can do it.
again,
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah.
And so the events that are in the pink book now, the current slate of all those weird things.
All the events-
They're all still there.
They're all still there.
They just don't have the weighting factor stuff.
That's correct. Right.
The rules the same?
Yes.
They just
That's never been clear.
The only thing we changed relatively to an event was the payload, the NER payload, They used to force you to use a 19mm tube to encapsulate it. We made it small enough so it now fits in BT20.
Okay, so that's just a coupler, BT20
Right.
coupler.
That's the only thing we did that's, you might say, created a different, it didn't create a different event, but it changed somewhat the nature of that event. But otherwise, all the events are there. We removed, what, just the 3 events, correct?
Which ones? Super Scale,
Yeah.
Space Systems, Mentorship, Drag Race, and Rail Control Glider.
Yeah.
Those 5 are gone.
Those are the 5 events that are no
They
longer in
aren't
the
flown
scope.
anyway.
What was the middle one?
Space
Mentorship.
Systems, Super Scale, Drag Race, Mentorship,
Mentorship.
and our Rail Control Glider.
Yeah, precision radio control glider. Those are the 5 events that are no longer in the
They were
sport.
dead.
We retired them.
What's the ones
That we were-
before Radio Control Rocket Glider?
I'm sorry?
What's the what we heard as mentorship? Before Radio Control Rocket Glider.
Drag race?
Drag Race,
Drag race and, what'd you say after?
Space Systems, and Super Scale.
Yeah, space systems and super scale.
Drag Race.
Keep going.
What's the next one?
Mentorship, and
Mentorship.
Radio Control Glider.
What is that?
You
That's
don't
why it's
know,
gone.
don't worry about it. He knows in the book.
It was created by the board 2 years ago.
It was created
Right.
by Ted Cochran a couple of years ago just to try it out. If you have to mentor somebody in the event in order to place in the event.
Oh,
You get points.
Something that you should really, really clarify on everything you do from now on, because I and apparently many other people were under the direct impression that the Pink Book and all of Contest Rocket League was summarily destroyed and this was the new thing.
Nobody ever said that.
But that's what was appeared to have been implied. That's what I thought.
A lot of people thought that.
Well, maybe you should clarify that.
Read Croc too much.
I don't read Croc.
I just know we've been, Chris, have you missed any of the last previous 2 Narams?
I recorded them all,
Okay.
and that was never made clear.
But you were there, and I never, there was never anything that said that, the events were being all thrown out and replaced.
Sure there was. Even the fun event this week was Rest in Peace Pink Book.
Moving on. Moving right along. At the conclusion of your NRC launch, the contest director has 7 days in which to post the unofficial scores. Note they're called unofficial because the contest board chair has not yet received your contest manager file. To post your unofficial scores to the online scoreboard for each of the competitors that flew. At which point, hopefully you'll do it much faster than 7 days, but we picked an arbitrary number, I guess. One that seemed to get your results up on the scoreboard so you can see where you stand as quickly, within a reasonable amount of time. So it's going to be pretty straightforward, so hopefully you'll do it in a matter of 48 hours.
Is it?
Dan?
What do I do, or what happens if somebody doesn't comply with the 7-day rule?
Well, the previous Pink Book had lots of imaginary deadlines we never had any enforcement for either. So I don't have an answer for you other than to say, I imagine the regional contest board chairman might get cranky.
So far, that's been my only strategy. Next one.
Very good. Mike?
Is there any provision for doing it on paper rather than electronically? If something goes complete, could I send in somehow my results in paper to the contest director?
Mike, you can always talk to your regional chair and say, Dan, I don't know what region you're in, whoever it is, Dan, can you please help me out? I have this problem, and we're not automatons. We're people.
In case bad things happen.
But having said that, come on, guys. Libraries have free computing services. If you have to get a computer at the library, a friend, you can do it.
Someone's smartphone.
It's not that hard these days.
Okay. So the scoreboard will only display competitors' best score in any event at any time, and the scores to become official again. The CD submits the contest manager file to the regional contest board chair for verification.
So it's envisioned that there would be both unofficial and official scores displayed in the scoreboard?
Asterisks.
Okay.
Yep. The NRC is one big contest. So I think I get very excited about is the idea that at any time in the course of my flying this is I'm going to have scores in those events I'm wanting to fly, and I'm going to get to see where I am relative to everybody that is my competition, and that doesn't exist today. At least not with the speed with which this will provide. Sorry. All right. Each time you fly an NRC launch, you are competing with everyone in your competition division in an effort to improve your rank, subsequently maybe improve your bragging rights at that moment in time before you get to Naram and then you get beat down. If your intent is to seek an event specialist award or a national championship at Naram, then improving your performance and achieving a top 10 rank in the events is what you're really trying to focus on. Performance becomes very important if you want those levels of recognition. Many more contests and opportunities and possibilities. A sanctioned contest simply means NRC events are either part of the contest or that the CV is allowing NRC competitors access to their launch to make NRC flights. Record trials are the only other thing that is sanctioned other than an NRC launch or Naram. There are only 3 forms of a sanction. An NRC event may be flown at a sanctioned contest regardless of the other event's schedule. I think that's what Scott was describing to you earlier. Sections may hold NRC sanctioned launches, unsanctioned contests, or sanctioned contests with NRC as often as they want. This has been one of the sticking points that we really hope everybody gets. Everyone was worried about the fact that, well, under this format, what's our section supposed to do? We used to fly regionals. A regional was simply a way of saying you held a contest. It had a value in form of points. And beyond that, it was finding out who was best, ranking people in their performances in whatever events you chose. The only thing that got thrown out of that equation was the points. If you want to have a contest, a 2-day regional contest with other sections in your area, hold it. Set up the events, bring those other competitors in. The only thing that's not there are points, and award the best flyers. There's no difference. If you have NRC events as a part of that, then if you sanction it, then others may show up who want to fly NRC events. That's the only catch. If you sanction your contest, then you're allowing NRC to take place. Any of the 6, all of the 6. But if you want to hold a contest and you want to call it a regional, there's nothing to say you can't use that word. And you don't want NRC involved. All you do is not sanction it. And then you could still fly sea egg loft altitude, even though it's an NRC event this year. Mark, you look puzzled.
No, I'm not
okay.
puzzled at all.
All right. So don't stop having the inter-rivalries. There's no reason for ECRM to die or any of the other long-storied competitions that we're all familiar with. They should keep going forward. Crown your champions.
So if I sanction a contest,
yes,
and I'm not intending to fly an egg loft, I have to supply eggs. Regardless.
We're getting to that, Mike. Hanging with me?
Okay.
Hanging with me, we're getting there. So, unsanctioned contests may include as few or as many non-NRC events as they wish. This is another upside, in my opinion. Before you wanted to hold a contest, most people would go to the back of the pink book, they'd look up what the maximum weighting factor was for a local open section regional meet, and then you'd have to work the math and fudge it around until you got the maximum points. If your section wants to just do fun and something new and interesting, you can hold a contest now, and you can use events you've made up. You can go into the old pink book and pull super scale out, please do, and fly that. But if you only want to fly 3 events or you want to fly 30 events, you can fly whatever you want to fly. The point is get out and fly. Contest things. I mean, that's why we're here this week.
And
Yep.
I have a point. I guess I have to talk a little bit about the thing about if you sanction the event, you have to allow any NRC event. We have a special situation where darts flying field, FAA will not allow us to exceed 1,000 feet.
Okay.
And that means that certain of the NRC events we cannot fly. If that means we can't sanction the contest, that shuts down competition in some
That's 1,000.
Will your local
Fly any
safety
contest of any type even now.
How do they enforce things?
Yeah, how are they looking at it?
Mark, it's a special situation, but basically they made a series of demands and we basically said yes.
So
You're in California, you don't count, that's another country.
wait, one moment. Okay, I'm gonna attack this from another point of view though. So what event's going to break your 1,000 feet?
A altitude.
And who said A altitude had to be ultimate performance? I mean, if you say we're gonna fly A altitude, if we're flying high power and the waiver's 3,000 feet, you're gonna blow through it to 4,000? I don't think so.
Yeah, but that's
If we
not-
know
that's not
we
a
can't fly
competition.
A altitude beyond 1,000 feet, I guess it becomes set altitude.
Yeah, but it's a leaderboard, it makes it useless.
If that's the
field though, right? That's just one field.
Yeah, that's our only field.
Well, that means competitors should know better than to show up and fly A altitude there.
Yeah, Lynn?
Is it possible to incorporate some form of ground rules because of field limitations? You know, and
All I can say right now is we have the book the way we have it, and we couldn't foresee every possibility.
But
You
for
know,
instance,
Karnak darting with Johnny Carson, my mind reading skills are gone.
It's a corner case, I admit, but you know, it's a real corner.
No, I don't deny that.
you
That's
only need
true.
the phrase subject to local flying field restrictions, which should be published when the contest is announced.
Correct.
And would that not address that issue?
Don't go there and shoot.
You know, if you're figuring you're gonna put your. No, but if you.
Well, we're never going to encourage anybody to break any laws.
Moving right along.
Steve, do you think this is something you work out with the regional chair?
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that can be figured out. I'm not going to say, we don't want you holding contests because we don't want to risk that, situation going on. So that can be dealt with. Between now and when we figure out how to finesse the point, just talk to your folks. Say, look, here's the reality. We can't break 1,000 foot. Don't try to fly your A altitude here, please.
Yeah,
Okay?
I just want to make sure that the structure allows that because we'll have to do it that way.
Yeah.
John?
I think if we go back into the safety rules, the NAR, the RSO has the final say on any flight safety or local ordinances. If the local ordinance says you can't fly it, that means the RSO is allowed to say you can't.
That's correct.
It's a problem without need for a solution.
You are holding the event, and you are allowed to fly the event. But the safety limits of your field say you can't fly it over 1,000 feet. So if the RSO says that looks like we'll fly over 1,000 feet, it is within your rights to say, no, you can't fly that. You can fly the event, you cannot fly that route.
I get that, but it just. That I can put in the announcement that says, look, it will not be helpful to fly A altitude here.
You're welcome to fly it,
Right.
you're not going to.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You had the same problem with Apogee 10.5s in your state, couldn't fly because they weren't CFSM, whatever certified.
Yeah.
Same issue
Yeah.
happening back then with those, so.
All right, moving on. More exciting Naram. Well, I certainly think it's going to be. Naram competition, of course, will be open to all registered flyers in attendance. Naram consists of the NRC events, the 6 events we saw earlier, and whatever other events the contest director selects from the sporting code. Competitors who wish to be a national champion or receive an event specialist award recognition must meet the NRC qualification requirements and declare their intentions when they register for Naram. So, when you get the online registration process or a written registration process for Naram, there will simply be a point at where you're being asked, what's your intent? If you're here to fly for a national championship, well, we'll know if you've checked that box off because we're going to be looking at the results of the NRC, and it's going to tell us if you qualified or not. Same goes for an ESA. at which point we know who's flying for what.
So hold it, sorry.
Yep.
Back up.
Yep.
So any NAR member could enter the Naram.
Yep.
And when I fill out my form, am I declaring one or the other?
You could,
You can fly for national champ and ESA if you qualify for that.
yeah, if you,
Okay, and then the NRC qualification was top 10, right?
Yep.
or
And what's the
10%,
national champion?
based on, score based on rank, yes.
Well, okay, but what's the national champion qualification?
I'm getting to it.
Okay, I've got that, I won't see it yet.
You will. Okay. And we have a points matrix for use well, we developed this for Naram, but we want to point out, for those of you who want to hold contests, you can use this scoring matrix in order to help you award performance and determine your winners.
Meet champs.
Meet champs,
champs,
for
yeah,
instance. Right.
They're regional.
Yeah.
Meaning winners of the contest?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just first, second, third, fourth flight point.
Right.
First through 10th flight point.
Formula One. Think Formula One.
Yeah.
I thought those numbers.
Looks more like NASCAR now.
Chase.
NAR will recognize the top 10 competitors in each of the NRC events at the close of the NRC year. That's one thing that we will start, that we're doing in order to begin, again, recognizing competitive performance. We've thought from the beginning there simply wasn't enough, you might say, award recognition. You typically, you would go to Naram and a few tables would have everything, and a lot of people didn't have anything. And we're going to try and recognize more of the flight performance that occurs throughout the NRC year as well as that at Naram. Event Specialist Awards will recognize the best NRC event performance in each competition division over the course of the NRC year. National Champion, Reserve, and Reserve will recognize the best overall performance in each competition division over the course of the year. And all NARAM attendees may compete for Meet Awards, Champion, Reserve, and Events. So before, typically, the person winning the national championship tended to go home with the Meet Championship as well. Part of the problem, again, is that everything seemed to collect in a few places at the banquet. That's not going to happen. If you declare you want to be the national champion, you're going to have to be satisfied with that one big gleaming trophy. The Meet Champion Award won't be yours. That's going to go to somebody else. Because they will flow in extremely well. Yes, Sean?
So basically, what it comes down to is if you're flying for the Event Specialist Award, which now qualifies you to compete for the national champion, right?
No, the Event Specialist Award is its own separate award.
Pre-Naram.
Okay, so if you're competing then for the national champion, you now disqualify yourself for competing for Meet Champion.
That is correct.
No double dipping.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Because
Because we wanted a way we wanted people who may not even have an opportunity to be involved much, if at all, in the NRC, because this means even a walk-on, someone that has never been on the NRC scoreboard the entire year, can come into Naram, because as you're about to find out, Naram starts at 0 points. Everybody's on a level playing field.
Think of it this way. Let's say there's 50 people that register to compete at NARAM 60, all right? Let's say the top 10 in C Division, all 10 of them show up. So you have 50 people competing. 10 people's points go into the national championship database. The other 40 go into the Meet database. You can't double dip. So national champ this side, Meet this side. So it's one or the other, but never both anymore.
The concurrent races. So,
yeah.
Pam?
So when you're flying for a national championship,
right?
You've made that choice.
Yep.
You can or cannot win an ESA also.
You can if you qualify within
So
the
you can double
ESA.
dip there, but just
Right.
not Meet and national.
Correct.
Okay.
Mike?
So, and you said it in passing 10. the top 10 people can
Or
qualify for
the
this?
top 10 or 10%.
Whichever's bigger?
Based,
Whichever's bigger.
yeah, whichever's bigger.
So I'm sitting at last spot. I am on the bubble. And I have made my arrangements to go to Naram, say in May, and I
Okay.
get bumped off.
Are you competing for the national championship?
Well, I have to put it in when I say I'm going to Naram, if I am or not.
You would know probably based,
Well, if I'm on the bubble, you could get bumped off the whole system after you've actually made the arrangements to go.
Did we take that declaration part? It's
So-
automatic now.
June 29th.
I mean, I think I asked this earlier, is
I was thinking it.
why not have a minimum performance level? Set something like half of the multi-round duration round.
There is-
If you get above that,
There
you're
is,
qualified.
there is
There
a
is.
mechanism for that.
Yep.
There is a mechanism for that. The
That
so-called
would
performance rule.
seem to make more sense than just,
That's what he's
am I
asking.
ranked in the top, whatever. So if that extends down, it's like they do in golf. I mean, it's the top, however many plus anybody within 50 strokes of the, or 10 strokes of the top guy, which can expand the field. It's just an idea.
There is a mechanism for that, and we it's the NRC max rule. There is.
Auto qualifier, rank one, auto one.
Yeah, it's automatic first place tie. It's basically based on the equivalent of getting a triple max. So, for example, half a parachute duration is what, 60
Actually, all four of the duration of next year are 6 minutes.
or 6 minutes?
So if you can get 2 flights of 6 minutes in any of the 4 duration events, parachute, streamer, helicopter, boost glide, you will get an auto qualify of 1. You're
And
done.
you
You're
can't
done
be
flying that
bonus.
event for the year. So if you get that qualification of 6 minutes in September in any event, you're ranked 1. You don't have to keep flying and trying to improve. You
But
can-
this then there's, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but there's no return requirements?
No return.
Correct.
right, under the NRC, there's no return requirement.
For duration.
For duration.
For duration.
Right,
duration.
well,
What
for
about-
duration events that don't involve eggs or payloads, well, there's no payload for
Altitude.
eggs.
I mean, what about at Naram?
There is, yeah.
There is a
Turn the
return.
rules back on for now.
Yep.
Just like it is now. It's suspended during the regular season to try and level as close as we can get to level.
All right.
Let me just understand here, what you're doing is explaining what has been approved and the way it's gonna be for the coming year.
That is correct.
So, good ideas and suggestions about what would be better aren't gonna go into the system right now, they're
No.
not gonna be considered, it's, the die is cast for.
That is correct. This is all boiled.
So if you've got good ideas, keep feeding them to Ed.
Yeah.
But you don't need to debate a whole lot, because he's
Well-
gonna tell you what the lay of the land is for the coming year.
I know, but is there a mechanism then to make changes as a competitor?
For July
Well,
2018, yes.
There will,
For next season, yes. Basically, what we're hoping you will do is fly the stuff, find out what's working, what's not working. We don't wanna, I don't like this, send an email. That does us no good. If you fly it and you're seeing issues, like, this just isn't working, let Ed know so we can get this incorporated for the next season. You know, stuff like that. We're gonna find little things we need to tweak.
Mike, are you familiar with the RCP process?
Yeah.
Okay, so the board suspended the RCP process indefinitely. Why did we do that? Because at the very least, there can't be an RCP process this fall when you haven't even used the rule book for a month, 2 months.
Will it be put in?
Oh, yeah,
back?
it'll be back. As a matter of fact, it's going to be back and it will be improved. But having said that, it's going to be back. But you need an opportunity to use the book as it currently exists to find those things that you're finding that you want to notify us, keep track of this, you know. Feed all that stuff to me.
Well, and not just Ed, any of the members of his committee, certainly, and also the regional contest board.
If something shows up that, I mean, you've done all the work on it, and something is broken, that we don't anticipate. Is there a mechanism to fix that during this contest year, or we just have to live with it? I have no idea if anything is broken.
It's unlikely, Mike, but let us cross that bridge.
Yeah, okay, just,
In effect, it would have flown under two different sets of rules, though.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to do this.
Right.
yeah.
Dangerous
Right.
to try.
There's
All right.
another reason to not mess with it, and that's to get past the, I don't like this because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, right.
Because the second or third time, you might decide, oh yeah, I can do that.
If 5 or 6 different NRCs in one region are finding the same issue occurring, there's a problem. And that's what we're trying to figure out. If one person just keeps complaining about the same thing, and everybody across the country is going, we haven't had any issues with that, then you gotta kind of look a little further and go, well, what's going on here?
The one thing to keep in mind in Naram, because of the fact that this is all going to be started at 0 points, you're going to have people flying for different reasons. It's going to be an interesting blend of possible outcomes. Winning an ESA award, as it states, you're gonna pick an event. Now, I know I'm very interested in sea egg loft altitude, for instance, in the coming year. So I'm going to be flying that under the NRC, and I'm going to be trying to post good qualified flights, and I want to wind up in the top 10 or top 10%, whichever is greater, of that event by the end of the NRC year. And then I'm going to go to Naram, and then I'm going to want to do as well as possible in that event, knowing that I'm going to be flying against people that want to be national champions. They may be walk-ons from nowhere that simply want to fly egg loft, and who knows, there might be somebody I'd never expected hits a magic motor and smokes everybody. But the bottom line is, I simply need to be the best NRC qualified individual for these reasons. I need to finish highest in sea egg loft altitude to stand the best opportunity to win that event. That doesn't mean I'm first in sea egg loft. I could be 5th in sea egg loft, but I could be 5th and still win it because I was the best. I was the most highly qualified individual under the NRC prior to Naram.
So basically, you're declaring for the event before Naram, and then, assuming you qualify, you have to try to beat all the other people who declared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the point is, there's got to be I think if there isn't a bar to jump, why would we try? What's the point in trying hard? Sean?
I think I see one of the points of confusion here, and I'm going to try to clarify.
Okay.
The 10% that go to Naram that can qualify for the specialist positions.
Right.
The 10% is based on the national leaderboard, not on who's going to Naram.
Correct.
So you cannot be bumped off, you can't jump on when you go to Naram except before you can go. Except before you can sign up.
No.
Well,
I reserved my hotel room in January. That leaves 5 months of competition to go.
yeah, the leaderboard is running up to June 30th. I hope you're not waiting to register for Naram until, after June 30th.
So
Not so much that it's set, but
So ESA is basically the current year plus meet champion score.
I think I said that for me. So may I try again?
sure.
So when you go, if you know you're in that top 10% as of June 30th, if that's when the year ends, right? Or is it a certain amount of time before the Naram of that year?
June 30th.
June 30th.
Last day you can fly for the board.
Okay. And so at that point, as you're making the decision to go Naram, you know whether or not you qualify to be flying for an ESA at when you go to Naram.
I don't see how that's different than now. I mean, the last official points list was July 26th this year.
Okay.
And most years it's barely, 2 weeks before Naram. I think most of you have decided to go to Naram, regardless of knowing those final points. So I don't see how this is any different.
That makes sense though.
I mean, we're in the same positions we've always been.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, we're ever to come here to compete, but we're coming here to have fun and meet everybody for the yearly hangout, so.
Tom?
So people are competing and getting in the top 10.
Or 10%.
Right.
Yep.
Around the country.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Some of them may have no intention of coming to NARAM.
That's a possibility.
So, but the only ones that can compete at NARAM are in there, even if all the other people aren't coming?
No.
You don't have to fly a single NRC event at all.
No. If you want to be a specialist though,
Yeah.
you have to be one of those top 10, otherwise you can't at NARAM. I mean, so if there's a section of, you know, like Pikes Peak, whatever, high altitude, kick everybody off so nobody possibly could get into NARAM at this event, you know, because our field is wonderful or something. You know, they could prevent anybody from getting that, or severely limited.
It's conceivable. It's conceivable.
Yeah,
Cross the bridge when we come to it, I think about that. So as you're just saying, it's conceivable, yeah, we talked about it.
Okay. All right.
Right. Maybe that's okay. So winning a national championship, at the close of the NRC year, June 30th, competitors' scores in the scoreboard become final. Final scores determine a competitor's rank in each of the NRC events they flew. A first place in any NRC event equals a rank of 1. It's pretty straightforward. Second place is a rank of 2. For competitors seeking a national champion award, the qualifying process hinges on a competitor's combined scoreboard rank, resulting from flying all 6 NRC events. Therefore, in theory, a perfect NRC score is a combined rank of 6. You would be in first place in all 6 events at the end of the NRC year, and your scoreboard rank would be 6. I think that's straightforward enough, but it's not likely that's going to be the case. I mean, there's going to be a mix of finishing positions, but it is all going to come down to whatever that combined rank is. You know, here, Rick G, we know who that is, don't we, Bob? You know, there are his 6 scores and his good results, but you know, it's a 14. That's a bit far off the pace of a 6. But if you shank one of these and have a 15th place, you know, your rank's going to drop pretty quickly. So it's obviously going to reward those who take advantage of the system to fly a lot, to try and constantly be working to improve those scores. If you want to be a national champion, the system is going to reward those who work hard and fly well, because honestly, I think it should be hard.
Then what? Those scores aren't limited to 1 through 10, they can be 27.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or 277.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yep.
Don't tank once.
Individuals and teams must post So the bottom line is you have to first, individually or as a team, post just a qualified flight. You know, that's the minimum hoop you have to do if you're going to go after a national championship award. We all know a qualified flight that's not much of a hoop to jump through. At the end of the year, based on their final scoreboard position or rank in each event, the individuals and teams whose combined rank places them in the top 10 or top 10%, whichever is greater, qualify to go to NARAM and compete for a national championship. Assuming, of course, they intend to go and they declare their intent to be at NARAM and compete for that national championship. NRC qualified competitors accumulating the most points at NARAM shall receive the national champion awards in their competition division. NARAM competitors will want to enter all the events at NARAM because NARAM starts with 0 points. And there's a point schedule, you saw it earlier, and all the events are awarded points and added up. So if anybody thinks that NARAM is just about you only win the national championship for the 6 NRC events, no, they're just 6 events that are going to form the core of NARAM. There are going to be 3 to 5 additional events, and you want to fly all of them if you want to be the national champion, because they're all scoring points based on that schedule.
So the events, the non-NRC core events, also count for the national.
Everything, all the events, just like you're flying right now.
Including scale, including R&D.
Yeah.
You gotta do it. Yes.
Mark, you're looking concerned again. Oh, okay.
So you're gonna.
So fair play and trust essential. Again, as we wrote this new sporting code, we ran into multiple places where we asked ourselves, how do we protect against this or that? And the only word that came out of it is the trust in our fellow competitors. So I'm sorry, when I asked the question, who here plans to declare their intent to cheat, and Tripp's eyes and brow furrowed like, what are you asking these people this question for? I understood that it's probably not the kind of thing you'd expect to be asked, but I trust everybody in this room. I would expect everyone would trust me, and that's how this is going to work. It's the only way this is going to work.
Is that why sections for decades have been accused of holding basement regionals, because we all trust each other?
I bet that
There, Gary, there was a system before, and this isn't it. And that's just
No,
going to
this
encourage.
is easier, because you only have to find one cohort to cheat, not a whole set.
The other side of that, however, is that there's less incentive to do so, because you can fly half a parachute duration next to a 1,000-foot cliff, and it's probably not really gonna do a whole lot for you in terms of what you're trying to achieve, by the end of the hour.
When you get
So
zero,
there's pluses and minuses.
They're gonna whoop your butt.
So, when we're flying altitude events, the new sporting code states that you're going to record launch site temperature. Chris is baking this into Contest Manager. That'll be one of the elements that needs to go into generate your altimeter score. That's one area that we've learned from Dan is important in order to help improve the likelihood of accuracy. Is that fair to say, Dan, of the result generated by an altimeter? NRC events have no return rule. The return rule is in effect at Naram.
So what's up with that?
What is up with that?
Yeah. What was the rationale for flipping it back at Naram?
Well, I think the better way to explain it is what's the rationale for removing it prior to Naram, because we're all used to it at Naram,
I
correct?
can swing either way.
Very good. So I'll swing it to you in the sense that.
I'm still waiting for the rationale.
Okay, so the rationale is simply this, and it's already been expressed here this evening. I'm flying on a postage stamp field. How am I supposed to effectively compete against those in the far west with big fields, and I'm flying parachute duration? Like Vern here's going to have some big fields. My feeling is, if it's in a thermal, and even if it's going off over a tree line, and that tree line might prevent you from getting to the model, but you're going to still see it for 6 or 7 minutes, that may do just as well against a 6 or 7 minute flight out where he is not necessarily any more or less attainable than you are. But your problem is if you have to return that flight, he's got a better chance. So,
But at Naram, it's all equal.
but we suspend it because we're all going to be on that Naram field together.
Okay, but still, I mean, I'm trying to turn in the best flight performance that I can to beat everybody there. If it's valid for me to thermal the thing away during the year, I guess I don't see why it isn't equally valid to do it at Naram. But again, I'll fly whatever rules you got here.
Very good. Now, the last paragraph is the twist that might help you with this a little bit. So there are duration events in the sporting code that reference an NRC max. We know what multi-round maxes are. So if for half a parachute duration the max is 120 seconds, is that right? Doesn't
Half
matter.
APD is 120.
Pardon me?
Half APD is 120.
Yeah, is 120 seconds. What we're saying is, if the max, if 3 flights would generally be 360 seconds, if you can get that 360 seconds mark on 2 flights, as opposed to 3, that's the equivalent of first place in the NRC.
What do you do with ties?
They all get to go. They all go.
This is for NRC during the regular season.
This is during the NRC season.
So you don't necessarily have to try to thermal a couple of ways to
Right.
pull this off.
Think about it. It'll come to you.
Before you go off this one,
Yeah.
all altitude events require launch site temperature to be recorded because it's gonna be used in event scoring. How is it used in event scoring?
There'll be a new field added to Contest Manager where you plug in the temperature for each flight, each altitude flight, and it applies a correction factor to.
A correction factor, why are we gonna correct for elevation as well?
No.
That was discussed.
Smaller effect.
Is it a smaller effect?
Yes, much smaller.
That was my question.
Okay.
Not at my speed.
I'm gonna hold my speaker.
We may get we may have that at some point. We'll work with Chris. We'll figure it out. But for now, the consensus is that was less significant than the temperature correction. If that's about the best way I can put it. John?
What's the protocol for measuring the temperature?
Protocol for measuring the temperature has to be measured in Celsius.
Okay.
There is no there. If you like, we've researched a very inexpensive $7.99 thermometer, reads out in Celsius, plus or minus 2 degree accuracy. We'll be supplying the source for it, and you could buy those if you like.
Why Celsius? It's not very accurate.
In your day long contest that starts the morning at 20 C, and in the afternoon you're over 30. I mean, what temperature do you lose?
Each
You're
flight.
taking it right before the flight, Mike.
Every flight has to record temperature.
That's correct. Right before flight.
To what accuracy?
Yep.
We don't have a good contest requirement. We need a thermometer that reads digitally.
I would suggest it.
Yeah,
Tenth of a
I'd
degree,
suggest it.
100th of a degree,
Fair play and trust.
5 degrees, the red column of mercury in the.
It's not mercury.
Why not just
We didn't
drive
call it
on
out.
shows at that moment?
So start sanctioning. The NRC year will begin the day after 59 concludes. That's August 5th. And next year we're going to crown these first. We're going to recognize these first champions and event specialist award winners. I could only say this. If you don't sit down and really take the time to read through the new sporting code, and I don't mean just sort of glance your way through it inside of an hour. It's going to take some time to process what's in there. I admit, I've had 22 months of this thing and I'm still processing it, but the more I process it, the more upside I see in it. And that's not just because I sat on this committee and was asked to create this thing. I could have said, no, I believe in what we've done. These guys, you know them all, you've flown with them, and they're competitors who also believe in what this can potentially do for competition. And again, we're not the target market. We're hopefully the target market are the members of the NAR who aren't flying competition that may have seen weighting factors and points as just simply too arcane, and young people who don't have to necessarily figure out where am I going to get a special size body tube for this NAR payload, because we made that a little simpler. I mean, it exists on a lot of different levels. Bob?
I'm going to repeat my question from earlier. If you didn't talk to that 97% that hasn't given a damn before, what makes you think they're going to give a damn now?
And Bob, did you offer up to me to take that poll? No, you didn't. So I'm sorry.
Volunteers.
I would say that there's an opportunity for us to find out. Why don't you help me find out? By approaching those young people, especially that might not be flying this, and see if someone wants to do it.
This was a private 5-person committee that didn't invite other people in.
Actually, Ed,
Okay, so
contacted
I
I think
would
a dozen
submit,
people.
I would submit that having data about why people don't fly contests would have been helpful. Given that we don't have it, and given that the contest participation in the NAR is dropping off of a cliff, competition was about to become irrelevant as an NAR activity.
And Bob, short of the +1, how much competition are you
Hang on.
flying?
One more thing, Ed, right? I don't know whether this is gonna work or not, but I know if we don't do something,
We're in a free flight.
or worse.
Yep. We're in a free flight.
So I would encourage people to do two things. I would encourage them to try it, provide that feedback, and then promote it, right? Simply announcing that you did it on the NAR's Facebook page will take you 2 minutes. If it's not talked up, if it's not kept in front of the membership, nobody else is going to try it. So my intention for our club is to schedule NRC events every launch we have.
Thank you, buddy. Dan?
I think this is a great opportunity for those of us that mentor TARP teams to finally get away to get them engaged. Because when I tell them about an art contest, and they gotta come down to Bong, and they gotta prepare for all these events, and you're gonna be there all day, you know, they aren't too interested. But if I say, hey, the next time I come out and we, you know, and I witness your TARP flight, you know, we could fly some of these other events too, and you could see if you could be getting the top 10 on the website. And the guys I'm mentoring, I think are receptive to that, much more so than the previous system. So I know it's only one data point, Bob, but that to me is really convincing, because I have been trying to get my TARP teams interested in ARCOM, but the way we have it set up now is just a non-starter. I think that because we're out there regularly with our TARP teams, helping them with this other stuff, hey, one of our TARP build sessions, we're building a streamer model at the same time, and the guys on my TARP team are all trying to go out there that day when we fly the TARP rocket, and we see who wins that event. It's a competition between themselves, and then they get to see the name on the scoreboard. That's something we can't get.
I was going to ask, no matter what place you're in, 577th, you're going to see your name on the scoreboard, right?
That's
right.
Right? Your name's on the scoreboard.
And so that kid that's 4 years old with an RTI,
I intend to be higher.
Exactly.
He might be the next volunteer in the NAR like Trip Barber.
That's right.
You never know that.
Would there be a way to email people who are doing the NRC stuff if there's someone sanctioning a competition somewhere near you? I mean, because right now, I think where it is, it comes up, you have to go and look. But if you were actually in the NRC system already.
Post it on Facebook.
If there was some
way
mechanism
of
to
pinging
say,
somebody.
someone has sanctioned something somewhere, just drop you an email that there's one to go do.
You've already got an automated system doing all this, just haven't notified people.
We could develop an opt-in mailing list as well, right? And I would submit you wouldn't necessarily need to develop the software that says, oh, you're in, you're in,
you just join that group.
contest is in Colorado. There aren't going to be so many of these things, at least in the first year, that you could just get bombarded and go, hey, California don't care, right?
We got a lot of smart people here who can write software. It shouldn't be that hard for somebody to come up with something that says you put in your zip code, and if it's within a certain number of miles, it'll ping you.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm just thinking.
Any other questions?
Push is always better than pull.
Yes.
Quick question about record trials, I think that was brought
Yep,
up.
yes.
Is it the tip of the records that are the 6 permanent and then the one selected for that year? Or can it be anything?
Oh, it's anything. Now, record trials are their own special form of competition, and at a record trial, you can fly any NAR event in an effort to set a new record based on the records list that's maintained on the NAR website. So if you saw that, well, I don't know, after today's sea altitude, it's going to be kind of hard to improve on some things for a while, but if you saw A altitude was 400 meters and you think you can fly higher, you hold a records trial. Doesn't have to be anybody else there to fly against it other than the fact that you want to fly and try and set that new record.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
The current record list, is that going to be retired or?
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to be affected.
The current record list going to be retired, I imagine. Well, it's not so much a...
Nothing here.
Yeah, it hasn't changed.
It has to be there.
Yeah. This will be renumbered.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we already list records based on whether or not they were like theodolite track versus altimeter based. So depending on, again, going forward, the use of theodolites versus altimeters, quiet. You'll probably see a lot more activity in record set with the use of altimeters is probably what's more likely to happen. Because the new sporting code altimeters are now the preferred method of tracking, if you will, of recording altitude.
But
John?
as far as the records trial thing is concerned, I mean, you can now, attempt any record you want.
Yeah.
Have a contest.
Correct.
A sanctioned contest.
Correct.
So.
That is correct.
A records trial is just not an NRC, it's a records trial.
Right. It's, if you sanction a records trial, you're basically saying, anybody who wants to come and fly for a record. Chris knows about this in particular because Matt flies a record trial almost every, kind of like the New Year kickoff event down in the Phoenix area every year. Don?
I get a question that I don't think you actually answered about.
Okay.
Are you obliged to provide payloads?
Okay. I thought.
It was earlier than when you thought.
You can put it on your.
That you have to be self-sufficient. You have to bring everything you need.
Eggs is the big thing.
Where was it?
That was earlier.
The answer's no. You just don't bring it up.
The answer is, if you show up to fly egg, you better bring an egg. If you're gonna fly out, you better bring an altimeter.
Right there.
Yeah, come prepared to be self-sufficient. Assume there'll be no contest boards, flight guards, stopwatch.
So, yeah, the answer, Don, is people need to become, self-sufficient. You know, we're used to sanctioning local open regional contests and supplying a lot of things. And the NRC, based on the fact that the common denominator may be as few as 2 people, you just need to bring all the materials and assume nothing. Now, again, when a launch is sanctioned, if an NRC launch is sanctioned, on that current page now, there's a little window where it says, event details, right? And in that event details, you could say, I will have eggs. We're flying Seagloft altitude, altimeter, I'm bringing eggs. And that, the way people might not bring an egg. You could say, I'll have stopwatches available, but nothing else. I mean, you can put in there whatever details, but that's the point. If you chose to put in nothing and left it blank, other than I'm going to start at 10 a.m. and I'm going to end at 3 p.m.,
bring what you need.
Bring what you need.
How are you going, I'm looking at the NAR payload.
Yes.
Now, are we going to be contacting the NAR and purchasing the payload from you?
Nope.
Or we bring the payload?
You've always had, it's always been allowed that you can make your own payload to the specifications in the sporting code.
But who verifies that?
CD.
Yeah, the
Trust.
contest
So
director.
the contest director has to have an egg gauge and a scale and whatever.
And the same with the egg, the contest
Right.
director would have to verify the
Right.
weight and the diameter. of the
Here's-
egg.
Self-sufficient. Bring your own scale.
So in the scheme of what that slide where we talk about, the whole trust issue, if you want to try and game the system by using light eggs or smaller or eggs out of diameter or whatever, I mean, again, there are places here where we're simply going to trust that you will meet the requirements of the sporting code when you choose an egg, in particular, as a good example, or in the use of flying a payload.
Well, but it's not always a matter of trust. People can make mistakes measuring something. People can get a freakish result
Right.
from an altimeter.
Right, okay.
And suddenly, boom, 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 you have a few of these freak outliers and all your real top 10 things are pushed, way down on the list.
I understand that.
Happens now.
Well, but if you...
Thank you.
It seems like it's a method for selecting outliers that are gonna, that will affect everything centralized. If some outlier occurs in some little contest, it doesn't affect what goes on in
It
there.
still has to be approved by the regional chair. If there's questions, then you start going to the CD and say, hey, what happened? And try to figure out what happened.
BA Gluff probably didn't go 1,000 meters.
We had a 1,200 meter flight back in Dan Wolf knows, we called him. And we had the competitor go, that's not right. And he took, like Matt did in Naram last year, took himself out of the event in that flight. It was just simply that.
1,200 meters, wow.
There's no
Well,
doubt,
yeah.
there's no doubt, Tom, that one of the things that I know that you're gonna need from me or my committee is, you're gonna need some educational articles to go in the magazine. You know, we need to.
I would have expected some already, because this is in
Well,
fact,
you know what?
there's a lead time on it.
I know, and
Demanding.
you know, I just couldn't, I hadn't yet found it in the hundreds of hours I've already put in with these guys trying to write this thing.
That's not
Just,
an
you know.
exaggeration.
And that doesn't even address the number of articles that exist on our website that are impacted by the old sporting code still, and those will have to all be rooted out. And possibly authors of larger articles might have to be contacted and asked, do you want to update this? Because if you don't, I guess it's gonna fall on me or my committee. You know, we were just asked to write the sporting code. Nobody told us about all this other stuff. But you know what? We're just gonna assume to do it because it has to be done. There's no place to deflect it to unless Bob's gonna hold up his hand and ask, how can I help you? Maybe he will. I don't know. But, you know, somehow we're just gonna have to get it done. I'm not worried about you measuring eggs or weighing payloads, so.
How early do you have to sanction one of these? The 30-day limit?
7 days.
I got rid of 30,
7 days.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Got to launch on August 6th.
Good for you, Chris.
Our first one for our club is going to be September.
Wait a
10th.
second. He still has time.
Do it tonight.
You gonna sanction it, so you do it now?
Well, the link doesn't work yet.
Can two people sanction a launch at the same time?
The link does work.
Oh, no, all right.
As I said, it didn't yet.
Huh?
Two people do it.
I lost track of the date. All right. Any last questions? Now that most of the room is all dissolved, and I appreciate that those of you that stuck around as long as you did. No? All right, thank you.
The two people sanction launch at the same time.
Just go do what you're going to do and we'll figure it out later. I'm done. We've got 500-600 hours in this already. Good. Thanks,
Integrated process and it's
well, so nothing you can do.
That's Flash Thursday.
You can fly it once.
We probably are surprised by that.
That's it. See you guys in the next live stream. Talking to the people on the internet.